Audio check 1 2 1 2. If you guys can hear me coming out of both speakers in chat, give me a thumbs up. Nice. Can't hear me. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our 100K video. I started off with confetti. This all went as poorly as I imagined it would. So there you go. Yeah, this is one of those arbitrary milestones I set for myself like 4 years ago, right when I started the channel. I was like, oh, that'd be really cool if I got this one day. Because YouTube sends you a plaque. You can apply for a plaque. It's like a $5 plaque, but it's, you know, one of those things that sort of lets you know that you're on the right track. You made a choice in life that is not completely arbitrary and crap. This confetti is everywhere. I'm going to have to spend like an hour cleaning this junk up, but it was worth it. So hi, welcome everybody. Like I said, we're going to do a little AMA, chill, hang out, and enjoy the fact that you enjoy these videos and I enjoy making them for you, and I've had a real wonderful time doing it. So yeah. Glad you can join us today. Popping in, got a bunch of people over there. Got some anarchy in paradise. That's how I feel. Hopefully you guys appreciate the celebration background. A little shout out to all my 90s kids out there. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, man, it's been a long, strange trip to 100,000. I've seen people that started after me, pass me at speed. A little disheartening, but it's like, it's all right, man. I got my views. I have 25 million views. That is nuts, guys. 25 million people have clicked on these stupid, silly little videos I make, but I have so much fun making them, and I'm glad to make them for you. I'm glad to have found something and stumbled across something you guys enjoy so much. It's been, you know, that's been the real crazy thing, is like finding something people enjoy as much as you guys do, completely by accident, by the way. Several of you asked in the previous, I put a question up saying, hey, if you can't be here today, leave your questions and I'll answer them when I can. And one of them was, hey, so how did you come up with the Noobs Guide series? Honest answer on this one. I didn't know what else to do. I'm a history person by default. I have a master's degree in archaeology for screen media. I was trained by the people that made Time Team. If you're from the UK, you'll know that program. And my initial channel was trying to provide historical context for a lot of video games and movies and things like that. I still love doing that. People ask all the time, do I want to go back and do that again? No, very much so. Yeah, I enjoy the heck out of it. But the Noobs Guides were created because Total War wasn't releasing historical games at the time, and so I was like, well, I got to come up with something. And if you'll notice, I have some really early videos where I'm sort of covering Warhammer that did just like terribly. Nobody watched them. I mean, it was just like news. It wasn't interesting for anyone. I was like, well, I got to do something. So what can I do that is different? And I was like, I don't know. Let's just make fun of it. I find this lore to be a little silly sometimes, and everyone takes it super duper seriously. So, you know, let's try something a little different here. And yeah. The first video of that series, which was Icket Claw, immediately got 100,000 views, which was the highest view count I had ever received on a video at that time, like instantaneously. I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah, that's a really good video series to keep up with. So I tried it again, kept working, and now we are on episode 36 of it. And I'm sure it accounts for the vast majority of my views as a series. It's the most popular one is Nakai, which I actually go back and watch Nakai every now and again because I forget my own jokes. I actually keep all of my scripts in a Google Doc online, and I search for certain keywords to make sure I haven't reused jokes in previous videos. It's part of my process. I'm like, you know, I try very much to make everyone a unique experience. There's no formula. It's just kind of go for it and go from there. People often ask, it's like, hey man, how do you come up with the jokes? Word association for me is what I do. So I just read their lore and then sort of sit for a couple days and think about them. So like, you know, when I think about lightning, what do I think about? Well, I think about Raiden, I think about Thor, and then I try and find, you know, which of those is most related to Miao Ying and go from there. Or in the case of Nakai, yesterday's revelation was apparently I think about the movie. Oh, goodness. And of course, I blank on it right here. I'm a big movie buff, by the way. I watched a lot of TV as a kid. So a lot of TV and movies, and it's paid off in the long run because I have a very deep knowledge of pop culture, but that's how that works. What's that? Oh, goodness. Hold on. It's going to bug me if I can't think of the name of the film now. So, and it's Jared Leto. I'll just tell you guys, and you can tell me in chat in a couple seconds. I'm going to have to look it up. Jared Leto, one of the Wayans, and Jennifer Connelly. It's super duper overly serious 90s movie. And it's got Keith David in one of the greatest lines in movies history. So if you know the movie I'm talking about, I'll let you you guys can pop it in down there at the bottom for me because I blanked on it, of course, because I'm trying to be entertaining at the same time. Yeah, I spent 10 years as a teacher now, a full decade, and what I've found is that teaching does a very good job of preparing you for a life in front of a camera, which many of you may have found out during COVID. Some of your teachers, Requiem for a Dream, that's it. Thank you. Yeah, when I think of Nakari, I think of Requiem for a Dream, which is a very weird association. I realize that, and that sort of seems to be the key to the channel. Is I just come up with whatever associations in my mind and let it jump. Everyone's like, "Oh, you should do the meme stuff, like oh, Imric and Miao Ying." Like everybody does that. Yeah, well, everybody does that. Why would you come to me if everybody else does it? I mean, you know, that's not interesting. I mean, sure, I'll refer to it. I'll try and do something new and interesting with it, but I do very much try to find new and different associations you guys may not have thought of previously, you know. And it's funny because I can't talk about that. Never mind. So occasionally there's things that you'll see from the developers where I do wonder if they watch these sometimes, where it's like, you know, I made that joke and I've never heard that before, and yet somehow there's a little thing in there in the game. Maybe. But yeah, being entertaining in front of teenagers is really difficult. I basically found that the silliest, most self-deprecating I can be, the better. Don't ever pretend you're cool. You're not. No 18 to 16-year-old in the world thinks that an old guy is cool. So just roll with it, man. Be the lamest thing you can possibly be. And then play it for the cheap seats. It works every time. People become wildly uncomfortable around you, and there's like, you know, it's... I discovered I hate the word cringe humor because apparently my entire life is just cringe to an 18-year-old. So, meh. I mean, what are you going to do? Making videos out of it. That's the idea there. But they always seem to enjoy the class and came back for more, so must be doing something right, just like you guys did. All right, we're going to start taking questions over from the side here, chilling, hanging out. If you haven't gotten yourself a beverage yet, this is an alcoholic-free beverage full of caffeine because I'm a father and I require caffeine in regular doses throughout the day. So any tips to potential parents out there? I liked my Vlad the Chad Dad little pop-up at the bottom. I've just decided to start interjecting actual parenting tips into my videos at the bottom because it's like, why not? Do you think we will get the Chaos Dwarfs race pack for Total War Warhammer 3? No, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's definite. Not only that, I made a video on it. I don't make a speculation video unless I'm like 99% sure I'm right. And it's one of those really unfortunate personality quirks where if I do something, I want to be right. You know, like I don't want to be the guy that gets it wrong. Like I want to be pretty darn sure that I'm correct. My recent Champions of Chaos video, the 4 Legendary Lords, like if that's not the DLC with those exact guys, I'll eat my hat. And I like my hat. This is from Mirko's, a Irish outlet. This is a linen hat because it is 97 degrees Fahrenheit here, and it is June. We're expecting around 106 to 110 degree weather here this year, which is just nuts to say the least. But there you go. What did I teach? I actually taught, weirdly, though I'm a history background guy, I taught media. So I taught kids how to make videos just like this, and I actually used my channel as an example of like, hey guys, anybody can do this. You know, find a niche and then go for it. One of my best success stories is my hat is not straight now, and it's going to bug me because I have to look at myself constantly. The hat was a poor choice, but like I was having a bad hair day, so I was like, I've considered going like Panama hat because it matches the shirts, but I'm not really a hat person, ironically. I've had to become a hat person because I'm slowly going bald, and so it's one of those like forced hats by association. Like I've lost a lot of hats because I just keep setting them down because I hate the buggers. I was talking about, what did I teach? I taught archaeology. I'm sorry, I taught film to kids, to high school kids. And the entire concept was, you know, that's why I do this film competition with you guys, because I did it in my own classrooms. I would have to get kids make short films. We'd throw it in front of the entire school. We'd sell admission, do popcorn, and we would use that money, and then we would go to the movie theater. Like we saw Avengers Endgame opening day in my class because they had raised the money from making the short films, and we turned a field trip out of it. And I was like, hey, this is the reward for that. You know, I mean, this is a monumental event. Let's go do it. I loved it, man. It was a great fun. I had a lot of fun with that. And that's why I try and keep that same energy with a lot of the stuff I do here. So if I ever sound like a teacher, that's why. 10 years of it, you know. Noobs behind being a dad win. Oh, God. I'll tell you in 18 years. I got to get one all the way to the end first. There's new challenges every single day, to say the least. Thank you for your videos and your open and free personality. That is an edited personality. Never let anyone say to you that the person talking in front of the camera is the real them. It's not. This is always performance art. You know, I did not wake up this morning and think, this Hawaiian shirt is the shirt I should be wearing today. Even though I have like 8 of them, and it really is. But I mean, like this one I specifically thought matched my pants, even though you're not going to see my pants. It's very weird. It's a type of performance in a way. But especially with the noobs guides, I give myself a lot of arbitrary restrictions while writing them. One, you'll notice I think there's only been 1 F-bomb in the entire series. Like I really work hard to keep them PG-13. And now you're like, how's that possible? There's a lot of innuendos and references in there. And yeah, they are. But they're innuendos and references. And there's an important difference right there. You know, there's you can insinuate that someone likes to make love to a pterodactyl, but when you actually say it, it's much less humorous in a way. So you have to find ways to beat around the bush, as it were. You can't get a beat around it and not show the, you know. Yeah, that's also how those get written. The mind of a 12-year-old. So, I'm really happy. It's a really, you know, really big day for me, to say the least, to reach 100K. Like I said, it's been working towards this for years. So I'm super happy about it. So thank you guys so much for being here. Cody is a slan. I don't like the lizard men. I know I'm not allowed to say that, but like I have an interview coming up next week with Rich Aldrich, the DLC director for Warhammer 3. I know we mentioned that. Well, hopefully it'll happen. But I was reading on one of his like potential bio things. He's like, oh, and you know, my favorite races are the slan, are the lizard men and the Skaven. I was like, oh no, duh. The DLC director's 2 favorite races are lizard men and Skaven. I would have never guessed. It's like, yeah, friggin' look at the DLC. Who got the favoritism the entire time. So I'm going to have a conversation or 2 about that with him. I just thought that was kind of funny looking at it. All right. I don't like the lizards. I mean, they're just like such the archetypical good guy faction in a way. Like, I appreciate that they're lizard men. There's some kind of cool stuff going on, like Aztec lizards. I like a lot of the art design of Warhammer. There's some really neat stuff going on. I don't know. Riding around as giant lizards isn't as fun way, like especially when like sentient lizards. I don't know. Just like, you know, I'm not a huge Skaven fan, but I love them as bad guys. I think they're perfect enemies. Really, really fascinating stuff there that are fun to fight against. And that's its own special little thing when you create something that you don't necessarily want to play, but you still want to interact with them and engage with them in a way. Like I like the lizardmen existing. I just don't seek them out. You know what I mean? I'm a Bretonia player. Which the irony of all of that, I'll let that sink in for a minute there. But yeah. All right. Do you think you'd be willing to collab with other Warhammer YouTubers? I have previously. You know, I've talked with them. I've done, you know, streams, though, Koi and those guys. What I've generally found is that streamers in general are like cats. Cats that are extraordinarily territorial and really don't want you touching their stuff. It becomes really awkward in a way when you're doing stuff with other streamers, because it's like, oh, well, who gets the views and who doesn't? And everyone like wants to be the queen of their own ball in a way. Like, you know, you can, it's really hard to play second fiddle to those situations. There's a lot of really strong personalities. Like, I'm an accidental person in a way. Like, I never set out to do this. Like, I never wanted to be the center of attention. I mean, that's not entirely true. I was 1 class away from being a drama minor in theater and did like, in college and did theater all through high school. But it was more that I liked to make people laugh. Like I really enjoyed improv comedy. Like I'd be up on a stage, just whatever I could do to get people laugh. You know, it didn't matter if I looked like a moron, so long as people are laughing. That's one of the first lessons I teach in class about acting. You know, if you're going to be in your own movies, you can't be you. Like everyone wants to be super cool in front of the film. They're like, oh yeah, man, right? And they got like that flex the entire time. They're like, right? And they got a rock hard pecs at all times. I'm like, that's not funny. Right, you know, make me laugh, make me entertained, you know, get rid of who you are right there, you know, become something else. So it's hard for a lot of people to let that go when they're streaming, and they always want to be sort of the most knowledgeable person in the room, the coolest person in the room, and it makes collaborations hard. Someone posted a comment yesterday. There's a guy named Pancreas No Work, and he's like, "Oh, you should collaborate with him." What? He's in my Discord. Like I talk to him all the time. He does memes. Oh, he has a channel? What? I was shocked. It's never even come up. He's been in there like 2 months. We talk all the time. Yeah, never thought to check. Sometimes it's nice to just surround yourself with people that enjoy doing the same thing, you know? So, yeah, it's sort of like a baseball or any kind of sports and all that kind of fun stuff. All right, someone said, Chaos Dwarfs in the game, by the way. Is this my life? Thank you for the donation. I'm not sure what SEK is. I've never heard of that monetization before. It says, Chaos Dwarfs in the game. What period, 22 or 23? I don't understand the question. Period 22 or 23? Period 22. Nope. You'll have to explain that one, elaborate further. But yeah, so collaborations are fun. It's just sort of difficult to do it. So like, I'm collaborating on the film competition, though. I'm going to keep plugging that because it's still ongoing, and it ends in 7 days, 8 days, a little longer. And the previous year's winner, Engaging Bear, is the other judge. So it's me, him, and then you guys as the third judge. I'm going to let you vote. But like, I like his stuff. I highly respect him. I've spoken to him previously. He has a background in editing and video. It's not just like he pulls that out of nowhere. It's interesting how many people use this as a second job. It's sort of like a creative outlet. You know, that's how I started doing this. Is I was like, you know, I want to do something as exciting and fun, and I wanted something to find a way to re-engage with my passion. He's asking when will Chaos Dwarfs release? So we know there's a DLC accompanying Immortal Empires, and that's been slated for late August now. So we assume there will be one more thing after that. Everything I've heard is it's going to be like spring 2023. It's not going to be this fall. Like they have a big thing, you know, those big 4 whatevers coming up. And then they'll probably do something smaller like a versus pack, and then they typically go trade back and forth. Now, if they do 2 in a row, hey, I'm all down for that. I mean, they really need to jumpstart the game again and get people interested, but I wouldn't look for Chaos Dwarfs before 2023 just because it's so big in a way, and you want to make sure to plug something. And I still assume there's a game of some sort they haven't announced yet coming out, like in the fall, like something. I mean, it's just really weird. We haven't heard about whatever's coming up next in a way, but, you know. Well, that's not true. They announced Hyenas yesterday. If you guys saw that trailer, that was immediately pulled from being online. 1212 AD, good. Yeah, I enjoyed 1212. I've played that one several times. I look forward to a Medieval 3 game. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff with it. I think there's some really neat features they can bring in from Three Kingdoms, especially. I think that the way Three Kingdoms puts together the armies, where it's a lord that brings units with them as opposed to a single lord leading a whole bunch of stuff, is actually more reflective of the actual history of the period, for one thing. But it also kind of encourages you to mix up what's going on there. And I really think that it'll encourage deeper level diplomacy and things like that. And I look forward to it. Now, if they go Medieval 3, when they go Medieval 3, I really do hope that it's not from the same 1066 start date, and I say that as someone who loves 1066. Goodness knows I love 1066. If you haven't played my 1066 mod for Thrones of Britannia, so I would like to see a late medieval going into Pike and Shot. I'd like to see something from like 1450 to like 1650. Sort of that weird interim period where if you go from one very distinct style of warfare to a very other distinct style of warfare, and sort of the interaction that happens, you know, the changes in technology and strategy that force a very different play style as you go through the game. That'd be really cool, you know, just to mix it up, to make it something very different right there. All right. Do you think End is feasible now with the massive land mass added, even when they said it's, quote, not in the cards? Yeah, well, CA also said that the current map was not the final map, didn't they? Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that one. I don't have any insider information on it, but everything I've heard is that Old World is going to have End and Koresh and all that eventually brought into it, because why wouldn't they? I mean, it appeals to a more international audience. And so, obviously, one day, knowing that Warhammer 3 is sort of here to stay for the next 3 years, probably for, you know, DLC cycles, they would obviously want to bring that stuff in as well. Now, things like Nippon, I'm not so sure on anymore. I really dig Nippon. I would love to see Nippon in the game, especially because, Shogun 2, that's bread and butter for CA. But it's interesting that I bet the demand for Nippon is higher in the video game than it is on the tabletop. So that would have to be almost an entirely unique creation that's a free release from the Creative Assembly, almost like Bretonia. You know what I mean? Because like that's so specific to this fan base. I'm not sure that Games Workshop's going to be as on board. All right, Kurt Nicholson, who just donated $2. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Guys, I'm not doing this for cash. I appreciate it. I mean, it's awesome. Thanks for the tips and stuff. Don't feel like you got to give me any money, man. Like, I'm happy as a clam right now. I really am just here hanging out with you guys. It's so much fun. It says, love your news, guys. Addicted to them. So, hypothetically, you can pick which 2 races get a Lord pack with a FLC Lord of another race. For Warhammer 3. What races do you pick? Races. Oh, you're talking about like hobgoblins for the yeah, okay. So that's one, like I talked about that in my Chaos Dwarfs video. Like a Chaos Dwarf gets a hobgoblin sort of thing. That's one. I want hobgoblins. I like it where you have one lord that is different from the other 3 that really mixes up the playstyle and forces you to think about it differently as far as mechanics and stuff go. I'm all about variety in my playstyles. I don't like it when you have 4 guys that are basically copy and paste of one another and there's not a lot of difference. So that's one. I would love to see Dogs of War. I think Dogs of War could be really cool. And when I say Dogs of War, I don't mean like just the mercenary recruitment system. Guys, that's lame. I mean like almost like the Southern Realms factions. You got your Talea, your Astalia, your Border Princes, and then, probably some sort of wandering army that uses very similar mechanics. And the cool thing about a faction like that is you then can bring in lots of legendary heroes and lords, and you bring in these unit models that can be, frankly, modded into larger free factions. I've always liked Albion, just because I'm really big into British history, as you might have guessed from my mods and stuff, but especially the Scots. I've always found Scottish history terribly fascinating, and just Albion being this sort of Iron Age proto-Celtic society with lots of like Highlander references. Big Highlander fan as a kid too. I was a big fan of everything as a kid. I'm a big fan of everything now. I try and find enjoyment in everything. I watch bad movies constantly because there's enjoyable stuff in them. Even if something isn't perfect, there's always something to be gained from it. If you haven't seen RRR yet on Netflix, oh my goodness. It is basically an Indian, as in like subcontinent India, superhero film, but it's based on historical characters. And so it's like these larger than life, like Robin Hood type characters. And it is just a riot top to bottom, man. Like I love Bollywood and Tangowood. They're 2 different languages, and so there's 2 different like terms for it. And I'm sorry, I'm not as up on Indian cinema as I should be, but I enjoy the heck out of them because it's over the top special effects. It's almost like kung fu films from the 1970s. Like the enjoyment is in the excess. So, and my wife likes the dance numbers, so we can agree on it. All right, English Civil War reenactor. I very much hope for pike and shot era game. Yeah. Reenactment is its own special thing, man. Like, I cannot give you guys props enough. One of the coolest things I liked as a kid, and something I did in my class occasionally, is when you have people coming in dressed up. Dressing up when someone introduces something gives a little some more reality. You can touch the thing they're talking about. Oh, those heavy woolen outfits. Oh, in a British summertime, good night. And people get really obsessive about that kit, man. One of my neighbors was a Civil War reenactor for years. And the number of buttons, were they cast in the correct way? Was this hand sewn versus sewn with a machine? Like, people can get intense about that. And ironically, one of the reasons my channel initially got a boost of hit is I gave poor Jack Lusted I gave him so much crap when Thrones of Britannia released, because I was like, hey, those leg wrappings are not period accurate at all. I mean, look at these examples from the Bayeux Tapestry here, and I have to say, I'm really disappointed from you, Jack Lusted. I expected more. This poor man. Oh, God. Apparently, he worked on Empire Total War before that, and he would get, constant crap about the number of buttons and, the positioning of the buttons, because people are passionate about this. They really care. And he's one of those guys that I keep wanting to interview him again, because the more time I've spent with this game, the deeper I've gotten into it, and I really appreciate how much detail there is in there. Like I was doing something recently where I was having I'm doing an Age of Arthur mod, Arthurian Total War mod right now, and so I was looking at the kings of the Picts from the 400s, and I looked. I'm like, okay, let's add this person's name. Oh, it's already in there. Oh, that one's already in there too. And he apparently had found the Pictish kings list of before the year 600 and already imported it into the game. And that's such a specific thing to have had to find and try and suss them and then translate them. And it's just, I appreciate that level of research that goes into these. And I think there's some really unsung stuff that happens for passion and things like that. I got a question from a longtime patron. In fact, probably my first patron, well for Fox's sake, who asks, what has been your favorite video you've made so far? So I like I'm going to give two answers that are not going to be the obvious ones. So I started out doing history, like I said. And so one of my favorite videos I've ever made is the Tulip Mania video. It's the first economic crisis where basically people overinvested in tulip bulbs and the entire economy went bankrupt because of tulip bulb speculation. It was a speculative bubble. And I filmed it in the style of a legit serious documentary, walking in front of the camera and talking and things like that. And I put my heart and soul into that. I mean, probably 2-3 weeks worth of effort. And man, I think it still has 2,000 views to this day. I mean, just nobody watches it. It's just the worst. I tried the same thing later with doing a more historical style with the Rise of the Roman Republic. I really like that one. That's much more in the style of the Decisive Battle series from History Channel back in the day. I've actually asked around several times to try and figure out who owns the rights to Decisive Battles, because I would love to buy the rights to that and repitch it as a Netflix show or a YouTube series or something actually supported by the Creative Assembly and really get that show reinvigorated. I think there's a lot of legs with it, especially with the more modern stuff. But in a way, I think it's one of those that's sort of in a rights limbo now, where it's sort of unclear who actually owns it a little bit, or they're sort of sitting on it. But my other video, because some things I just oh, whatever, I'll make a video about something. I made a video about Thanksgiving. I was like, oh, true history of Thanksgiving. Just look up the Wikipedia, boom, put it on there. Fun. Just a holiday series, because a lot of people don't know the origin of holidays. Because I was living in the UK a number of years ago, and Guy Fawkes Day happened. And I was like, what the hell holiday is this? I'm sorry, you burn a man in effigy for your 4th of July? Who does that? It's awesome. Also, no public safety measures at all. They were doing fireworks directly over our heads. It was raining down on us, in the park. I was like, this is awesome and terrifying, and I love it. But I did one about Thanksgiving called, the true history of Thanksgiving. And you can look it up. This video has been so controversial, and I never intended for it to be. And so it's the only video I've ever made where I've had to block the comments, because they'll pop up on my feed and they're just so vitriolic. And it's been wow, I did not mean to step into that. Did not mean to step into that at all. But lesson learned on it. So I enjoy the fact that it's just that it exists, in a fun sort of way. But my favorite video, man, I'm glad I made Ica Claw. Put it that way. I would never have thought that comedy videos based on Warhammer lore would have been as successful as they are. But there you go. Most anticipated upcoming movie. Thor Ragnarok. Oh no, Thor: Love and Thunder. I really like Taika Waititi stuff. I always find him enjoyable and fun and light. So I'm looking forward to that one. It's weird because I actually don't really look forward to Marvel films for the most part, but that one, just because it's a different style, I do. Movies are finally starting to come out again, which is nice. I saw Top Gun in the theater, which everybody else did, but I was a kid of the '80s. I watched that growing up. A lot of fun, man. Really cool stuff happening in it. All right. Have I read The Black Tulip by Alexandre Dumas? No, I've only read one thing by Alexandre Dumas, and that is Count of Monte Cristo. And that is definitely one of those books that the translation makes a big difference. You gotta really be aware of who your translator is. So I found one that was a much more modern translation. The free ones you find online from Penguin are going to be and then he hath gone across and smiteth that man with a pick iron. And it's what? That's not even a sentence. Try again. So I found another one that was a more modern one, a more poetic one. Sort of if you read the more modern translation of Beowulf by Seamus Heaney. it flows. It's got it's got the original poetry into it, the idea of it's a sing-songy thing, and it's not meant to be just dry translation. They actually published a version of Beowulf by Tolkien a couple of years ago, which, if you guys are not aware, J.R.R. Tolkien, creator of the Lord of the Rings, is the reason we know about Beowulf in the modern era. His actual job at Oxford was he was Anglo-Saxon studies and scholar initially, and so he would do like this dead language, and that's why you see a lot of that bleed over into his Tolkien works. And he wrote this paper called In Defense of the Monster, and why the monster in Grendel, which was just seen as so far-fetched and unrealistic, is so important to the foundation of modern literature and the idea of villains and mythical storytelling. And because of that, it repopularized Beowulf for modern audiences. Well, modern in like 1920. Obviously, now we still know about it. But they published his lecture notes like recently. They went through and they found his original. He like translated it all himself and like made notes. And it's like the most dry, straightforward interpretation you could possibly have. It's like, instead of like, and they sang the song of the swords that hit the mail and the rang about. It's like, sword hit male fall off, man go to ground, right? It's like, it's literal. Obviously when he was lecturing on it, he would do a little bit more right there, but just like the quite literal translation right there, and people were like, well, that's interesting. Imperator Zor from CA, so that's Canada. Nice. The Great White North, which apparently is like in a heat wave itself right now. A bit of important bit of history. Oh, yeah. Up until the 19th century, a pillar of civilization were the night soil men, who carted away poop in the night. In the 20th century, poop trucks were common even in the industrialized world. The garden, they call it the garden men, or the garden soil. It's a garden something. I can't remember the word. People don't think about that, so much poop has to move. That's one of my favorite facts about the Norman Conquest. Is actually there's a book that was a studies of the invasion, basically from like the 90s, and someone ran the numbers. It's like, if you have 5,000 men with 5,000 horses in this same location eating X, that means they require X amount of food, X amount of firewood, and produce X amount of excrement every single day. It's like the logistics of having to move. It was like 5 tons of horse dung every single day out of these areas. It's like, no wonder these armies were constantly on the move. They would literally drown in their own poop if given enough time. Poop in history is a lot of fun. There's a great one, anecdote a lot of people know about now thanks to Reddit, where used to be the latrines were sometimes underneath the castles, or they would drain out and go under because of poor drainage. But there's a king or a prince in Germany in the 1200s who was holding court, and the floorboards had slowly sort of rotted over the years, because of like all that stuff wafting up, and the floorboards gave out, and like 40 people fell to their deaths in the latrine below and drowned in the excrement. So, historical factoid of the day. I really want to get into making little 2-minute little short histories of stuff. I've written a couple of them. I've been using Crusader Kings. I think Crusader Kings is wonderful for creating characters, and you can make their mouths move and sort of react to what's going on. And I really want to make some like 2-minute history shorts. And the first one is called Constantine Saw the Sign, which is Constantine, first Roman emperor to convert Christianity. But the idea that like there's writing in the sky, but it's like, he just can't see, he's looking for a sign. He's all these signs around him. He's like just not accepting them. So I don't know. We'll see if it works. It's the thing about running a channel like this, but also being a stay-at-home dad with 3 kids who are thankfully being watched right now for the hour and a half, the hour it's taken me to do this and the half hour to set up. Someone agreed to watch them for me. So it's one of those things that, there's so many ideas I want to work on, but there's just only so many hours in the day at the same time. It's that great sort of thing. It's like, do you want to pursue what's popular now through Noobs Guides, or do you want to try and lay the foundation for something people might enjoy in the future, i.e. more content like what I just mentioned? But, it is what it is. Samurai Warrior, hey man, asks, glad to see me at this milestone. What's your favorite faction you prefer other than Bretonia, and why? There is no faction other than Bretonia, Samurai Warrior, and it's important you learn this now. I actually have a mod I've been working on in the background with Grey Tiger Games and Drunk Flamingo for a little over a year now. I actually started it back when Mortal Empires was still going, and I was like, I'm going to put the brakes on this until Immortal Empires comes out, because it's going to be a lot more popular then, a lot more interesting. But I'm trying to do my own sort of like DLC style mod where it's like a lord, pack of units, lord, pack of units, make a trailer for it, do noobs guides, like make it where it feels like an official extension of the game. I'm Bertrand the Brigand. Like, if it's funny because you guys see me on the Total War Reddit, I'll pop in occasionally and be like, here's my fun idea. And so often I don't use I used to use my real name. Everyone's always surprised about that, but like a lot of people won't even know it's me. Reddit's a very interesting place, to say the least. The amount of like upvotes or downvotes I will get for existing. So that's always been just interesting. I don't even post my videos to Reddit anymore. Like Okoi posts his videos there. They get like 2,000 upvotes. I post a video. I have gotten downvoted into oblivion for just posting a noobs guide. So I'm like, I don't even worry about it. If somebody else wants to, you want to, go for it. Free karma. Have fun, man. Do you think? Favorite historic figure or interaction? Oh yeah, a bunch of them. There's so many little fun things in history. That's the thing, is history is the story of people. So many people, especially in the United States, learn history as a number of dates on a timeline, and they're jumping around all over the place, and it's really hard to see that causal impact from one society to the next, and it becomes really difficult to sort of keep them straight in a way. Like, you get sort of locked in, like, man, I don't really know who this person is. I actually prefer great man history, which is a really outdated concept now that was really pushed out in the 1960s. I think that it's one of those things that hopefully we'll see it come back one day, because I do believe there's some merit to it. But the idea that history really is pushed by certain individuals who are making strong choices, and everyone else is sort of following suit. Now, I do believe obviously there's a societal uprisings and societal shifts, and they're coming out of that shift. But occasionally it's just one dude being a real dick about things and kind of pushing stuff through. Someone mentioned Alexander the Great a minute ago, and I actually watched a movie, Richard Burton's Alexander the Great, about a week ago, because I was thinking about it. And you always hear about the riddle of the Gordian knot. So Alexander invades Persia, and he comes across this society, and they roll out this ox cart, and there's this crazy big like knot of like hair, and the guy's like, well, this has been here for a couple hundred years now, and the guy who invades us, it's prophesied, will be able to untie this knot. Can you untie that knot, Alexander? And everyone always uses this story as an example of Alexander's brilliance. He's like, oh, well, he's just man, Occam's razor just got right to the point. So Alexander pulls out this sword, just chops the sucker right in half. He's like, boom, problem solved. As an adult, though, watching that scene with Richard Burton, it's so blatantly just like, middle finger. It's like, I have no respect for you, your cultures, or anything else. You're my guys now. Bugger off. Which just really reads very differently in a modern context, to say the least. Okay. Manjipedia, which I may have messed up on. I'm terribly sorry. What got me into Warhammer? Also, no, you said do this to hang and not for us to pay for it. Let me buy you pizza. Appreciate it. I eat a lot of pizza. I had pizza for breakfast. I had pizza last night. I've been trying to figure out why I eat so much pizza. And we were watching Ninja Turtles with my kids this week. And I was like, oh no. So like my son's gotten really into chili dogs because of Sonic the Hedgehog, and I'm like, I wonder how much like childhood television influences our eating habits as we grow up. Like I really like I'm watching, I'm trying to avoid anything involving consuming excessive amounts of sugar now, because it's like there's who knows. Right, I got into Warhammer. I actually have liked Warhammer for a number of years. I always thought it was a really cool concept. I'm just poor. I grew up, didn't grow up with a lot of money, and still don't have a lot of money. And so, Warhammer is definitely one of those hobbies that requires regular cash injections to be good at. And so, I just never quite got into it. So I was really excited when the first Warhammer game for Total War came out, because I could interact with all this stuff for the first time. And I was like, oh, dude, that's awesome, man. I had a really good time with it. It's pretty fun. But since then, weirdly enough, I've gotten a couple armies and figurines, and I figured out that I like painting them a lot more than I like playing. So I'll get miniatures occasionally and just paint them because they're fun. My kid enjoys painting them. We'll do it with him. So there's a lot of really fun stuff going on with that, where you can interact. I like the fact you can interact with the hobby in multiple ways. It's not necessarily just competitive. There's also artistic ventures, which clearly I really dig on. So yeah, that's how I got into it, because it's such an extension of, because I got into it as an extension of Total War, basically. People always ask me, it's like, oh man, like if you could make one thing in the Total War, what would it be? And it's like Lord of the Rings. I mean, some of you may have seen my disastrous video from December where I was like, oh, maybe that's coming. Don't ever listen to Twitter, folks. This is why, I mean, I'm not sure where people get their confidential informants from, but if any of you happen to work for CA and would like to become a confidential informant, I will happily fly to the UK and have a pint with you at some point. And I don't know, you confidentially inform me. I'm the least shady person in the world. I show up in a Hawaiian shirt, for God's sake. So it's not like it's going to be terribly confidential. But it's like, I'm not sure where people get their information from. Like, I have to bust my ass doing research to come up with this stuff. Everyone's always like, oh man, it's super obvious. No, it's not. Like, I have to like spend weeks like reading through all these stupid manuals to come up with my ideas. Like, I go through all the threads I can find to see what the commonalities are between them and try and piece together this larger idea. And then it's like, you know, sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm so terribly wrong. Like, just so terribly wrong. Let's see. Father Nurgle, the Ninja Fatherly Mutant Ninja Turtle. Yeah. Cleveland. Chili dogs and pizza sounds terrible. Sorry, I was looking at my notes on the right hand side here. Garbage pail kids. Oh, 90s. There are some trends I'm okay with having died. Garbage pail kids is one of those things I was always like a little weirded out by. Cabbage Patch Kids. Oh, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know why those were popular. And there used to be one of those Cabbage Patch like nursery things near my house where like you would go and you would pick the Cabbage Patch Kid, like they were growing in a garden, like some sort of weird feral gnome thing, and like getting to name them and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not a girl, so it didn't work for me. But I remember my grandmother distinctly being like, "Oh, you should go get one." I'm like, "No, I was Hot Wheels, man." She had a bag of Hot Wheels. I would get a Hot Wheel every time I went over there. It was awesome. Yeah, eventually I got too old, and I just like just got the rest of the bag because it wasn't fun anymore. What is your favorite faction to paint? I don't have a favorite faction to paint because I've only painted like 5 things. I haven't painted. Yeah, the only thing I put together, I let my actual like kit. I let my kid paint. I blended paint a branch white, and it looks like, I mean, I'm impressed he painted. Like, everything's a different color though. It's like the staff is blue, like the head is green, and so like it's like almost like the Joker in, you know, tree form. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, I mean, I do Reaper miniatures. I just sort of do whatever. But it's one of those things that, again, you have to have free time to do that. And currently, my free time goes to making videos for you, which I'm obviously clearly happy to do, and I get a big kick and giggle out of it. You know, part of the writing for these is when I'm writing, do I laugh? Like, I'll be sitting over here giggling maniacally for like you know, because I know eventually my wife is going to watch them, and I'm just so excited to see if she laughs. Like, it is so needy in a way. It is so needy to be like, I want people to laugh so badly, but like, I really wish I could have some sort. That's why I like the live premieres a lot. I can see when a joke hits, you know, and when jokes don't hit. Like, I spent so much time on the last Nurgle video, the Kugath Plague Father video, with the NBA Jam reference, where it's like, from the Waffle House across the Beltway, he's downtown, he's on fire. And I was like, because that's such a strong memory in my childhood, is like dunking and then like the backdrop explodes. I was like, man, people are going to eat that up. I have had exactly 0 references to that NBA Jam thing since I put it up there. And I was just like, what? I was so certain that was going to be a winner, man. Like, I was, you know, trying to predict what joke will be the winning joke is just beyond me. Yet some people have really picked up on the fact that I'm like, one of the early jokes in the video was like, oh, and if you're eating now, intend to eat, or, you know, ever intend to do so again, make sure to save this video for later. That wasn't even scripted. I was just like, and then moved on, because I'm like, that's not even a joke. That was just me talking. And everyone's like, ah ha ha ha. What? I had that problem in my last job a lot. Like, I would start talking and someone would just laugh randomly. And it's that moment where I'm like, oh no, that wasn't supposed to be funny. That was me being serious. Oh no. Like, it's like, that was not meant to be wacky. That was a real solution right there. Maybe you should do this thing. Irish Sniper says, would you like to see a customizable Border Princess leader faction mini campaign similar to customizer Demon Lord? No. No, and here's why. You already have such limited slots for that sort of thing that I personally feel that you need to keep it really tight. So 4 lords, each with their own separate lore, and there's so many like lords you can bring in for like a Border Princess or a Dogs of War that it makes them more unique and strong. So the problem with the customizable characters, and I think we've seen this in the Demon Prince, is they don't have personality in a way. And that's what I thrive on, at least. Like, I want to be playing as a person. There's a slight amount of role-playing that goes into all of this. You know, like, oh, you know, I'm conquering the da-da-da as a guy. You know, like, you know, I get into it a little bit. And I think making your own character is very cool, especially for something like an Avatar Conquest mode. But is to put onto a map, not as the Legendary Lord. I think creating your own general could be cool. You know, like, hey, design your own general to then make something like that. Like, he has certain attributes, certain whatevers. But, like, the Legendary Lord themselves, less so. Just because it helps to give certain play styles. Like, oh, this is cavalry focused. This is whatever focused. And I think that, you know, mechanics become a lot stronger, a lot clearer when you have a certain person in mind. You know, the tighter you can dial something in, the clearer the vision becomes. You just have to be careful not to over-tighten. It's also good filming advice. Sasaki, outside of Total War, what other games and genres do you enjoy and play and have thought about expanding more into video series for other games I have? Oh, yeah, man. I play Skyrim. I've been playing Skyrim for 10 years. That's not true. I've been modding Skyrim for 10 years. I'm really big into modding. I try and support the modding community as much as I can. I want to get back into doing that now that Warhammer 3 sort of come out and those become more established. But I like the design process. I really dig, like, coming up with a good design of someone and moving it from there and then sort of like figuring out the best mechanics to put with them. There's some really cool stuff with that. Totally played Stealth Archer. I have 2 archetypes I always play, Stealth Archer and heavy weapons guy with like a heavy axe and heavy armor. And I play that in every single game I play. And they always have the same names. The Archer was always called Gwent. From back in World of Warcraft days. This is before Witcher, by the way. I just referred to the Welsh principality, a Welsh kingdom of Gwent, and I always liked that. It's like a Welsh archer with like red hair. That is so specific. I know. And then like the warrior always had like a big like joined friendly mustache with like an axe. I've always liked paladins and warriors. I always thought those were really like those are such different archetypes, and I've liked playing both of them. Daniel, thank you for the Dixie Cup paper background. It's called Jazz. So if you want the jazz background, that is what that's from. After all, this is a celebration, and what better celebration than with a Dixie Cup from the 90s? It's one of those things you don't notice until they're not around anymore. That pattern was everywhere when I was a kid. So thank you for noticing that. That's exactly what that is. So yeah, do you do Cody? You do a video like your prediction video talking about Dogs of War and the possibility of units. Yeah, eventually I will. When I think it gets closer, we'll get there. The next one, prediction wise, I'm gonna do will probably be around December or so. I mean, it sounds I think it's not really just me. Everyone's basically saying Marienburg right now. An expansion of Marienburg with the boat, the land boat, and like having them become playable. And there's a lot of really heavy hints in the game files about that. You know, if you played the recent like Warhammer Battles MOBA thing, I can't remember the name of it now, it doesn't matter. It came out like 2 years ago. They had like a Marienburg city you could go to. They showed off a legendary lord. Like they really showcased this particular guy. And I was like, yeah. And it's funny because I think about Marienburg as an extension of the Empire, but really they're supposed to be like the Netherlands and Holland, and that has its own distinct visual identity. I think especially with the Immortal Empires map coming out, which is focusing more on sea trade and lanes and things like that, it makes perfect sense to me that a more sea-based faction would be popular and have a place. Which Total War has been a favorite for 3D management? For me, it's Rome 1. I'm going to stop you right there and agree with you. I've had this conversation with someone previously about what MKR3B. Do you have a question? Because dude, that was like $50. I appreciate it, dude. But like, man, I'm going to use that to buy a video game. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do with it. I'm always looking for new stuff to play for the channel. That sounds weird to say that, like new things to cover. It's like I played Demon Hunters, Chaos Gate Demon Hunters recently. I know. I was like, dude, do you have a question or something? I was like, drop cash and walk out the door again. It's just like, hold on, ready for the confetti again? He's like, psh. Right? And then leaves again. That went all over my keyboard. Like, I was like, it's going to go right into the keyboard. I got to get some air duster and hit that stuff because that is not going to come out. I appreciate it, man. Thanks. So, I was talking about that one threw me off so hard. I was like, what the hell? Yeah, hey guys, I was saying this a minute ago. I appreciate it. Don't worry about it, man. Like, I'm fine. I work, it's funny, I actually work 3 jobs. I'm a full-time dad. I do this, and I do a freelance video on the side. So, like, I work for, like, local hospitals doing editing and things like that. And, it's the funny thing that a lot of these skills translate over into other work. That's why I always try to tell the kids when they were in the class, like, guys, you can make money off of this. Like, you can make a living. You know, your end goal is really to pay taxes, own a house, and have kids. Be a contributing member of society, and go. My existential goals are pretty low these days. It's like, wake up, don't shave. Good. Okay. Success. Greatest mustache in history. Okay. So I had to shave mine, and I actually was going to talk about this on stream, but I decided not to. You'll notice my icon always has a mustache. What'll happen is I'll grow a mustache. It gets really hot outside, and I'll start plucking at it. And I actually developed something of a neurotic tick when I was in college called it's like tactile mania, something like that. But basically, I'll start pulling at it, and I'll slowly pull my mustache out, given enough time. So I just shave it off. I'm like, stop. And then it'll slowly grow back in over the course of about 4 months, and I'll shave it back off again. And I'm just like constantly growing and ungrowing mustaches. Like always in a state of having a mustache of some sort. Harold Godwinson. Love his mustache. That was actually one of the first moments where I was like, Tom Selleck. You can see it. You know where this is coming from with the Hawaiian shirt. Love those. It's funny because when I was a kid, like everybody around me had mustaches. Like my dad had one, my uncle had one. It was one of those symbols of like, you know, right? And so I never thought I would have one, at least not, except ironically, but like hipsters started wearing ironic mustaches, and that bothered me somehow. I'm like, no, I'm going to wear a mustache and like mean it. Right. And that's its own separate like thing to mean it when you wear a mustache. But it's been useful because like when I go to my kids' school, people know me because I'm the guy with the mustache. So, I mean, it's paid off. Like nobody has mustaches anymore. So I don't know. How do I choose what legendary lords to cover? So previously it was just sort of random. I was just like, oh, who do I want to do next? But that's actually why I opened up the Patreon. I mean, it sounds weird to say that because I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I'll let you guys vote on it. But, like, there's no good way of voting on YouTube. You only get 5 choices. So I was like, let's go through Patreon. Let's try that. Like, $1 vote. I don't know. This is, to keep that stuff running. And so I came up with the Wheel of Lords because there's still 54 of these things I have not gone through yet. I keep a list. There's 54 I still haven't hit yet. And so it's like, Wheel of Random 3, and then vote. Right. And so that's why I asked recently. I was like, hey, do you guys want to stick with Warhammer 3 Lords, or do you want to reactivate the Wheel of Lords? And everyone's like, well, it's cool, whatever. And you guys want Warhammer 3 Lords, which, by the way, Miao Ying and Nakari are the top two, with Nakari just edging her out. Nakari's all about that edging. These things write themselves, by the way. His video. Oh, God. I've had to be so careful when writing his video because it's like, man, it is really easy to get that video banned on YouTube if you're not careful. So, but I've already written hers, weirdly. Like, I'd already written 3/4 of her out previously, and then I had heard that, like, Cathay had some additional lore coming, so I sort of put the pause on it. I was like, I'm going to hear if there's any more lore coming out and pause for now. But it never happened, so I was like, oh, well, I mean, I've already got it basically written, so I'm going to try and work on those two basically simultaneously and, get them out pretty close to each other because I'm back doing this stuff again, so it's fun. All right, so yeah, it's much less, like, systematic now. It's much more like, hey, I'm going to draw a random 3 because what I've discovered is there's always somebody that loves these, and I really learned that lesson pretty early on. I was kind of making fun of people. The tone of the series was inspired by a YouTube guy named Shammy. He's a little owl guy who like made fun of video games. And I was like, dude, I really dig this sarcasm that he has going on right here, man. Like, he really gets it. Like, he's having a fun time, but he's like, da da da, really getting in on it. And so I tried adapting that with the first couple of videos with Icket and stuff, but I ran into a problem when I got to Luther Harkon, because he's okay. I mean, he's discount Jack Sparrow. He's undead Jack Sparrow. That's sort of his gimmick, right? But I went a little too hard on making fun of him versus making him sound cool. And like everything was just a random person in the comments. It wasn't even like a specific person. Popped in and was like, "Hey man, like, why are you going so, like, I really like this guy. Like, why are you ragging on him?" And I was like, and it wasn't even an upvoted comment. It was just one random guy out of like 200 comments. But for some reason, it really touched a nerve in the back of my brain where I was like, people are watching these because they want to play the person. They want to experience them. They want to know what makes them cool. And that really changed the dynamic I had with the series. And thankfully it happened early on, so I was able to sort of focus in on that and really think, so whenever I make these, I think, why do you want to play this person? I mean, always make it sound like the coolest thing in the world, because it is. There's always something fun, right? So find the fun thing, tell people while it's fun, and like get them in on it, right? And so everybody's up to speed. So that's really been sort of the driving mantra since then, is find that cool thing and make you want to try and play them. Bag on everyone, the South Park approach. Yeah. Those guys have gotten death threats. I'm cool not. Yeah. Which historical era do I think deserves more attention? Pike and Shot. I talked about that. Pike and Shot's really cool. Anything from 1600, I mean, really 1550 to about 1650. Like I said, 1450 to 1650 really hasn't been covered in a lot of video games. Actually, it's weird to me. Pike and Shot is not more interesting than it is. It hadn't been around as much. I think Fall of the Roman Empire is really interesting, from 450 to like 650, 750, just because it's sort of that, I don't like to use the term the Dark Ages. It's really the early medieval period, but it really is the Dark Ages right there, because writing basically disappears. There's not a lot of like solid histories coming out of it. Everything becomes very, no one's exactly sure what's happening. It's harder to pin it down. And so I really dig that period because there's a lot more opportunity for telling stories in it. And I haven't seen a lot of that. World War I is interesting, just because like the late 1800s, 1850 onwards to about 1940, really 1850 to 1940, there's not a lot. Obviously, American Civil War has been popular in America, but I don't think that works on a global stage. But I think that a lot of that stuff, and especially they're running into this with games like Victoria 3, is there's still very serious feelings and deep-seated trauma related to imperialism and imperialistic endeavors of that era. Those aren't so far away that people don't still feel the impacts of them every single day. And I actually noticed that in that film I mentioned earlier, RRR. It's like there's some real deep-seated stuff still being dealt with by people today that I don't think everyone always recognizes. And I wonder if a lot of that has to do with avoiding those sort of things, but here nor there. Let's see. Am I still a teacher? No, I'm not. I did not sign up again this year. I have a very lovely 6-month-old daughter who I will show you a picture of, because that's what I've been trained to do. It's a very weird thing to be trained on, but basically when you say I have a baby, people immediately go, "Oh, what does your baby look like?" And I'm like, "It looks like a baby." I'm not sure what else to tell you. So yeah, little baby, and that's not gonna, yeah, she's awesome. So basically, due to the salary differences of teachers in the United States, it was cheaper for me to stay at home and keep my 2 kids than to be at work and put them in daycare. So I would almost end up breaking even. So I was like, well, I've been wanting to do this more, and I left on good terms, and basically everyone said, cool, take a 2-year sabbatical. Cool, I'll come back. And there's a lot of opportunities to move back in with the company, and so I'm excited to do that with the local school stuff. I still work with them. Actually, I have hopefully a project coming up next month working with the school system. Even though I'm not there every day, I talk to them all the time. So yeah, I'm just considering it sort of a sabbatical for right now. I really want to get into history, like teaching history as a teacher. One of my friends said, "Hey, do you want to be a middle school history teacher?" Yeah, sure, why not? I bet my comedy translates well to middle schoolers. Lots of fart jokes, I'm sure. What would middle schoolers find fun now? Fortnite? Among Us? Like, I feel so old saying stuff like that. I would often like purposefully misuse slang just to annoy my students. They like, "Oh man, that's cool. I bring the cake in the room." Man, come on, get down with the hizzies. Please don't do that. I'm like, what, man? I'm chill with you, dog. Just messing with them. Just like to do it on purpose to It's fine. They made old white guy jokes, so it all kind of panned out in the end. I was like, look, man, you guys cannot make a joke about me that I can't make a worse joke about. Like, so, and then I rip off a couple on myself and make them feel a little better. So what am I planning currently? Currently, I actually keep a Trello board that kind of I use to track sort of what's coming up. And initially I was trying to focus on maybe doing some reviews of other games, things like that. But what I found is my opinion of a game changes the longer I play it. So some games are really good for an hour and then become really dog doo by the time you get about 20 hours in. And so I was like, man, I have to like spend 20, 40, 50 hours into these games to get a good idea of what the review feels like. And I read so many reviews these days that are like, you can tell they rushed this game in a weekend. And it's like, ugh, really don't want to get into that cycle because reviews are also only good the first week. So it's one of those endless sort of cycle things. Although Mandalore does a good job of, doing a review months later, but his reviews are an hour long. He's really going super in depth. They're not very often, but they do come up. Okay, it says, what is that, a pink kitten from Sieg Kran says, love the channel, but also, what are your feelings on YouTube? Are you getting stuck making videos for a specific game or two? Sometimes I feel bad for them, but sometimes I'm like, I did sub for X content and not like this. Congratulations, you've discovered the paradox of YouTube. Hey, you know what keyword trends on my channel and guarantees an additional 50,000 views? Noobs Guide, right? But even then, it's not necessarily just Noobs Guide, because I tried a Noobs Guide to history. Didn't work. 20,000 views. That's pretty good. I'm not going to, it paid for itself. That's the thing. I basically got minimum wage to have worked on it. So works for me. But YouTube very much wants to paint you into a corner. That's their thing, man. Like, they want to be able to market you. You are a commodity and they want to sell you to the largest audience possible. So they want you to be consistent. I fight against it a lot, but I've realized that for, as long as I keep it kind of in the realm of Total War, most people are okay with the channel, kind of branching a little bit. As long as I use that stuff, maybe make a Total War video, history video or whatever, but try and keep it on brand. I don't want to get further into Warhammer at the moment. Like, I could go deeper into the history and stuff like that and like really spiral off, but I'm not there yet in a way. I think there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about, like bloodlines and things that aren't necessarily featured in the game that could be very interesting videos. But again, it's like how deep you want to go with something. Because as you said, when you get too specialized and there's a drop off, you drop off with it. I am excited because Warhammer 40K, I firmly, wholeheartedly, 110% think that they are actively developing that at the Creative Assembly right now. And it's going to be out in maybe 4 or 5 years. They'd be nuts if they're not doing that. So I think that'll be a really cool influx to the channel, bringing that style and a lot of comedy in. So I really hope to cover that sort of thing. But I have a running debate on my Discord. I've been having it for years now of whether to make history content on my channel or move it to a second channel, right? Because those keys become so strong and people tune in expecting a certain thing. And so they don't want that constant conflict back and forth. But then I remind myself things like Team 4-Star exists. Love Team 4-Star. They would do streams and other random stuff and also throw up a Dragon Ball video. And the Dragon Ball video would still do fine. Everything else did fine. But it's that question of, would it do better in a separate place? I'm really curious what you guys think about that. That's why a lot of people have 2 or 3 different channels with different styles of content. So people tune in thinking exactly what will and will not work there. Would 40K work for Total War? You can't picture it. It's all right. I've got a video about halfway written to explain to you exactly how it will work. And it's funny. People ask, why do I make videos like this? It's like, let's be honest here. Partially, it's because I like the design. I like to design something. It's basically, if I ruled the world, what would I make this look like? If I got to make it, this is what I would do. And the other part is that, again, this is my way of speaking to the community. Normally I'm trying to voice what you guys are also feeling. I'm trying to find that common thread that you guys are having and then try and express it in a way that it gets more views. Because you can shout all you want at other people on Reddit. It does not mean anything's going to change or be made different. And so a video, though, that gets 50,000 views, well, that has a lot more traction. People say that it's so weird to see people constantly thinking, I mentioned Mandalore a minute ago, they thank Mandalore for fixing various bugs that were in the game. Oh, thank you, Mandalore, for getting that fixed. Mandalore brought attention to bugs that had been around for years that you guys have always talked about. He's not the first person to mention it. He's the first person to mention it with a very public platform and a lot of people seeing it. So it becomes much more obvious what's happening right there. So same sort of thing when I'm designing these games and like coming up with ideas. It's like, hey, I'm setting community expectations here. Like, this is what we're looking for. If you're not aware of it, guys, this is what we want and what we don't want. And, you know, they can either listen or don't at their peril. And that's true for most games. Yeah. Paul. Yeah, it says, I see that a lot on Twitch. Live stream raw content and a cultivated YouTube. You know, a lot of crossover. Twitch, man. Oh, my goodness. I'm so glad I don't do Twitch. Good friend House of Danion, who may pop in this, see it later, he streams on Twitch every single day to like anywhere from 15 to 40 to maximum 200. I mean, it's up and down, and it's so based on the game, and it forces him to play every single day. And like, he's playing for 8 hours a day. Like, man, I get bored talking after about an hour and a half. My throat gets parched. You know, I'm not that interesting. I'm just not. I had a debate recently with my brother-in-law about what makes an introvert versus an extrovert. It's like, where do you get your energy is always the one we always say. It's like, do you feel like, do you regain energy by being alone in a room, like just chilling by yourself? Or do you regain energy by going out and being with people, right? Where's the place where you're like, oh, I feel energized? And sitting in front of a camera talking for 8 hours a day, every single day, sounds slightly like hell on earth to me. I suppose if I had a hot tub, you know, just like, you know, and then like lay it back a little bit. I actually originally intended to do this stream outside in a kiddie pool I have, and like bask in the kiddie pool with like a float or something. But I couldn't get my phone working as a remote camera. So I was like, I was gonna use this as a remote camera. It didn't work. And yeah, it's just sort of what happened there. But I've got another thing coming in, so I can take the microphone with me next time. Try to do some on-location streams in the future for these Q&As. Hey, it's Alcidanion. Speaking of which, speak of the devil, he appears. Scale of tabletop being skirmish. Yeah, see, the thing about, I always hear this argument. It's really weird to me because everyone says, oh, well, the scale of tabletop is skirmish. Yeah, but the lore isn't. The tabletop is an imperfect expression of what they're going for. I recently read the Caiaphas Cain series. Absolutely loved it. You know, it's like these huge scale battles. I mean, you can make the same arguments for Roman combat. It's really a squad of 5 guys within a larger body. You know, what is the combat there? How are you trying to express it? You know, Mountain Blade and Bannerlord does a thing where it's, you know, trying to, what does this say? Okay. You know, Mountain Blade does this thing, Bannerlord does this thing where it's like, hey, man, we want to do individual personal combat versus large group combat. And so it changes the dynamic. And I think you can do the same sort of argument with 40K. And I think that you see a lot of that in Total War Warhammer already, where, you know, you have something like the Crypt Horrors, which are like 5-guy squads. I mean, that's your Space Marines versus the 200-guy squads, which are your basic infantry. You know, how they interact with each other has to do with, you know, the scale, the size of the units. You know, giants, I mean, those are freaking Titan guys right there. So your Grey Knights. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do with that. I'm going to take exactly a 30-second break and walk right over there and do things that I'm not going to discuss on camera. And apparently I have an add button I can press while I do that, which is sort of curious. So I'm going to be right back. Did that work? I'm really curious because I clicked add insert. So normally if I was doing this as a live stream like at the school or something, I'd click go to commercial or like pull something up on the screen and it would like cut away for 30 seconds and come back. So hopefully that actually did something for you guys and you were just like looking at my blue IKEA chair that I bought used off Facebook for $20. It has no padding in the butt, but I have enough butt padding as is. It doesn't need it. So yeah. Gather the throng. We need to pack 8 peaks. Chair ad. Yeah, I would not recommend the IKEA Marcus. The problem is I'm 6'2" and weigh 220. Really want to not be 220. I want to be 200, but that's been like the eternal struggle for the last 15 years. So it's very much one of those things that finding a chair that fits me is sort of weird. So like I have a desk that I like adjust the height on. Like I'm not an adjustable desk. I just adjust the height. I cut the legs off and stuff. But it's like really low, so I can keep my arms up high, but not too high, but like not too low. Ergonomics in desk is nuts. The world was not made for people my height. I'll put it that way. What I'd like about Rome 1 City Management, thank you for reminding me. So the conversation right there was basically how do you play your game? What is the intention? Is it that this is a civilization simulator, or is it a game, right? So Warhammer, Shogun 2, everything Rome 2 onwards is very much gamified. Oh, you want to trade off population for whatever. Choose one of 3 options, right? It's very gamey in a way. It's like you are interacting with a game, which sounds dumb to say that, but it's a game. Versus Medieval 1, it's like, here, you have a city. Would you like to increase population? You want to improve sewer system, improve roads. It's much more the simulation feel, right? So it's much closer to like the SimCity series, I guess, from back in the day, where you're constantly managing these different aspects of it, and you can make this one little tiny town turn into a metropolis. Well, you can't do that in later games. You only have a major city and a bunch of minor cities. They can never be equal. Right, and it sort of changes sort of how you approach the game. Is it an RPG or is it a strategy game? You know, which one is the primary motivator first? And that's why I've always liked that Rome 1 Medieval 2 style. You know, I can make it how I want to make it versus how the game wants me to make it. So, but again, I mod everything. So I'm very much, I like to play a game, figure out what I want to do differently, and see if there's mods that fix that stuff. So, also play Stardew Valley. People ask, what else do I play? I play Stardew Valley with my kid right now. He enjoys that. You know, it's farming. What are you going to do? Yeah, nobody thinks I'm 6'2" until they see me. And even then I like slouch a little, but then I'll draw up to my full height and like kind of bow back, and everyone's like, good God. Yeah. It comes in handy, especially when breaking up fights. No, let's not get into that. I think all total war games will be on sale today. Steam sale starts tomorrow, so probably tomorrow, I think. Even Warhammer 3, I suspect, will get maybe 10% off. Like, it'll have a little bit of knockout. You know, they need to kind of get people going to it. Oh yeah, Bannerlord, man. I used to play Mountain Blade. I played Mountain Blade back when the original was in a beta, and I was super excited about Bannerlord and still like it. I just haven't got a chance to come back to it, really, and I find that really kind of annoying because I want to go back and play Bannerlord again. I actually would love to do some more content for you guys here. There's some really cool mods coming out for it. They have, like I said, a 450 AD mod. They have a Warhammer mod for that one. I always like that it encourages people to recraft that world. You know, I really dig it. It's just that it's another one of those games that's really unclear. It's a sandbox, weirdly. You know, we're talking about strategy, RPG versus whatever. It's like this just allows you to create the world as you want it. But without a hard objective, I also find that I want to drop it a lot sooner than I would have. Like, I don't want to keep going to reach that next objective. I think good objectives built into a game, you know, a 10, 30 levels in, 40 levels in, whatever, to keep you sort of moving along is very important for people like myself that, get distracted easily, I guess. I don't know how else to describe that. Can't wait for Haunted Chocolatier. Can I get a what for that? I watched that trailer. I remember everyone kind of like turning their head to the side. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I totally believe this is by the same guy. I love his music. That is one of the most inspirational stories. I love that more and more people, like individual people, have a strong idea and they make a game. Guy taught himself coding. I've been teaching myself coding. I've been learning Unity in the background because I have strong ideas. I'm like, let me see if I can make that work. Thus far, I made a pixel do this. Boop, boop. And I can do it with the left mouse button or the right mouse button. That's right. It only took me 4 hours. That is not a joke. But I'd still managed it, and that's cool, man. Like, that's I always encourage people, just try something new. Even if you don't succeed at it necessarily, you get a better idea of how things work, and understanding more about how games are designed helps me to make better commentary videos on it. Helps me to ask better questions for you guys, and hopefully, make more stuff you guys can get a hang on here. Okay. Starting an hour, I think. Oh, the Steam sale starts in an hour. Yeah, it normally starts at 1 p.m. my time. So, yeah. Cool. Well, I'll get Skyrim Anniversary then. I know I'm part of the problem. I know I'm part of the problem, guys. I'm not even going to pretend. I'm such a part of the problem. I've been holding out for 6 months, but, my will is broken. I am getting that game. It's just going to happen. Other games I have installed right now. Dota 2, Age of Empires 4... Plague Tale Innocence. I have had a Plague Tale Innocence installed on my computer since I streamed it for you guys, and I refuse to delete it until I finish streaming that game for you guys. And that is a really weird comment to make, but I can't delete it because I said I was going to finish it, right? And so it's been sitting there taking up 60 gigabytes of my hard drive for a year and a half now, and I refuse to do it. I'm gonna finish this game, and so I just leave it there to shame myself every time I open Steam. It's no, you're going to finish the game. You promised those people, and I just let it judge me every single day. And the thing is, it's actually a fun game. I mean, it's got a sequel coming out, which is gonna be gorgeous, but it's very much that I'm really bad at stealth gameplay. I'm so bad at it. I recognize there are certain games I'm good at. I am so good at Fable. I love Fable. Fable 1, 2, 3. Can't wait for Fable 4. So friggin' stoked for that. I am just the worst at stealth games. I am like a rhinoceros walking into a tiny room. It's it doesn't matter what I do. I'm going to back into something. I'm just huge. It just happens. All right. Todd can't. Yes, you can keep getting away with it. Keep getting away with it. Todd Howard will do that as many times as it takes until you get the point. Oh man, that was one thing I was excited about Microsoft purchasing them, because it's all right, Bethesda, get your butts in gear here. You don't have to worry about making anything else. We know what we want from you. 2-slot vending machine. Go for it. I like Starfield though. It looks really cool, man. I think it'd be good. There's a lot of really neat stuff happening with it that I'm excited about to sort of see. It really feels like they're focusing in on what people like as far as base building and stuff like that. Thank you for the Abigail Kinkati. I appreciate the vote of confidence on that. I am trying to keep with it. My son is really into that sort of thing. He has an analytical mind. He likes to make games. I mean, it sounds weird to say that, but we're sitting at the dinner table. The sugar has certain abilities, the salt has certain abilities, and he just likes explaining rules for about 20 minutes at a time. So it's I have to learn coding to be able to teach him coding. And so I'm trying to get ahead of that now, knowing this is going to come up in about a year. I've never tried Gothic. It's one of those that I really wanted to try, but I didn't. I played Assassin's Creed around the same time. I still like Assassin's Creed. I mean, it's fun. Oh, man, I don't want to get into that one right now. That's a whole series that needs another reboot, I would argue, but that's something else entirely. Right, I'm going to take some questions that people left on the channel, on the comment section, kind of go through them really quick just because I have a moment here. The top one was a joke comment from Josta. Given your background as a teacher and weighing your past comments about such historical figures as Harold Godwinson and Edward the Confessor, and factoring your past archaeological experience and training, how would you fix the DC extended movie universe and bring back Henry Cavill as Superman? I cursed him there, and I will curse him again, but it somehow is the top voted comment, so let's roll with it. Henry Cavill actually suggested this, and I thought it was a great idea, which is evil Superman. Bring him back as bad guy Superman, Injustice-style Superman, something like that, where he comes back as the villain. He was so good in the Mission Impossible series as a villain, and really had a good time chewing that scenery. So bring him back. Go for it. I think it'd be a great way to introduce, bring in the new and the old for whatever is coming up next from that one. Let's see. What's your single favorite piece of lore from Warhammer Fantasy? Also, please bring back your historical content. I hope to. I really do. Favorite bit of lore? I don't know. I like the Grail stuff. I'm a big fan of Arthurian legend. I spent a lot of years researching and still do research regularly the Arthurian thing, so I like a lot of the Bretonnia stuff because it relates to that. I think the way that the Lady of the Lake is created in there, and the fact that all the magic kids born in Bretonnia that are taken by the Lady of the Lake, and only the girls get to come back, and the boys have just disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to them. Poof, they're gone. It comes up in End Times. My favorite piece of lore about Warhammer, there has to be that the End Times is just the worst. It's so funny how often I'm reading and I'm like, nope, End Times, stop. Bloop. Doesn't count. Not canon. Boring. I get a kick out of that. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. There's a lot of little weird bits and pieces like that in there. These sort of like little side notes where it's like it's never really explored. It's clearly someone set an idea forward, was writing it out, and never got a chance to kind of finish it. At least with Warhammer Fantasy. I think the 40k stuff, I like the idea of the Primarchs. I like the idea of like each legion having a different feel to it and each one of them having almost like a special superpower. I mean, there's a reason that particular format and formula has been copied so many times in games like StarCraft and, you know, I mean, it's a really cool feel. Like I said, read the Cyphus Kane books. Love those. So much fun and funny. And it really does a good job at illustrating that. Okay. Favorite period of history. We talked about that. Congrats on the achievement. How much your teacher motivates you? Pretending you're supposed to produce content. Weirdly, it's not related to teaching. I've been making videos since I was in high school. Like I started using Windows Movie Maker years and years ago and just wanted to make videos about what was going on around me. And originally I wanted to be a filmmaker. And I've actually written screenplays and stuff and even made a short film, which I think you can still watch on YouTube, called Wet Work. Heavily inspired by Pulp Fiction. And what I found out very quickly, though, is like I may be able to want something and want to create something, but film is such a collaborative art. You know, it requires so many people to make a good movie. I've helped out on film sets in the area. You know, I'm from Georgia, and you guys may know that there's so much filming happening around here right now. And so I was sort of the liaison between my school and whatever film set was coming out. They would frequently film at the school, and so I'd just be on set all day, like showing them what they need because I knew what they needed. I knew how to get it. I was trying to like make sure that interact between them and the building, you know, and it requires so many people to make something of such that level of caliber and quality. And I've been really impressed by if you've ever seen the guy who made Lights Out. He started off making short films. I used to show his short films in my class, and I actually tracked the rise of him in my class. I would tell the kids, this is a dude and his partner in their apartment. That's it. And now he's a multi-million-dollar director making Shazam. And he still has a YouTube channel. I watch when his videos come up. And it's funny because he has the same equipment I do. It's not expensive. It's not fancy. But he found creative ways of handling it. And I love that. I love it so much. And it's very cool. So if you haven't watched his channel, very cool. He's like all great some behind the scenes stuff. And he talks about like the idea why certain things happen in a scene. You know, why is there a shopping bag in the back right here? Well, because this person was handling a microphone and we forgot to remove it. So we had to do something. You know, how much of filmmaking really is about happy accidents. And so YouTube weirdly gives me more control. It's almost like more akin to animation or stop motion animation than it is to filmmaking because you can get into the granularity of it. Especially in my noobs guides, I have a tendency to like overdo the memes. Like I'll spend so much time making something that will pop up on the bottom for 2 seconds and disappear back down again. The guy from Friends, Ross from Friends, with the monkey on his shoulder, but he's made to look like Kugath. That took, I don't know, probably 30 minutes to make, but it's like, you know, for a 5-second joke. And so you can really quickly rabbit hole so hard and forget the larger picture if you're not careful. So you gotta be careful about that. All right. Have I ever watched Morbius, and do I have thoughts about it? No, I don't hate myself. I've watched Venom, and I've watched the sequel of Venom. That's not true. I watched Venom, and then I fast-forwarded the sequel to Venom. Sony is trying so hard, so hard, to make that as a cash-in, and it's just not happening. So it's not working. They just announced Kraven the Hunter, but Kraven's an environmentalist now, and that's why he hunts things. Like he just like punches the elephant really hard, and that means he won. So I don't think that's quite how that works with that character. But Sony ain't knocking on my door asking for my opinion. All right. Let's see. Have you ever had a favorite Warhammer book series? Yeah, like I said, Cyphus Kane. Cyphus Kane. If you're looking to get into Warhammer 40k, Cyphus Kane is the way to go. Light read, very fun. Hello from Costa Rica. Awesome. Thanks. Hola y buenos días. ¿Cómo está hoy? My Spanish is really bad, but it got me through Spain at one point. That's the key. I have several people in my family speak Spanish, so it's been nice as an adult to kind of use this because I tried to learn it a lot when I was in middle school and high school, and I found that I know a lot of nouns, but not a lot of like verbs and syntax. So I can get myself across what I'm wanting, but my sense of past, present, and future is crap. I'm just bad at languages, but hey, it's something. Let's see. Going back down here. Congrats. There's some really good questions. Writing process I went through earlier about noobs guides. Really just word association. So much word association. What's my ideal taco side and drink? I make my own tacos lately. I'm really enjoying those. Whenever I go to the Mexican restaurants locally, we have a very large Hispanic population in my area. That's one of the reasons I learned Spanish. And I like the burritos with the queso. So it's basically a fajita inside of a burrito. And now I want this for lunch, by the way. And we put lettuce on it, a little bit of tomato sprinkled on top, some onion, and inside it's bell pepper, grilled pepper, grilled onion, grilled pieces of steak, and chicken. Some people like shrimp in there. I don't think shrimp adds a lot to the flavor personally, but that's me. And then sprinkle with queso. I want that for dinner. What's today? Is today Wednesday? Today is Thursday. I might be able to swing it. All right. How was balancing real life YouTube? Since I first started. When I was working at my job, it was really tough. And even now it's really tough. YouTube is a weird animal because, especially being a stay-at-home parent, you can't really ignore your kids. And if you are ignoring your kids, you're doing it wrong. Let's just be honest about it. So I found myself working a lot at night now. So I will go to work when they go to sleep at about 8:30, 9. And I'll work until like 11, which is when I want to pass out. And then I have to go to bed to wake up at 7, which is when they get up again. So, previously I actually like working until I'm tired. And that wouldn't happen until 1 o'clock in the morning. But when you got to get up at 7, that doesn't work because you become a really not pleasant person to be around after that. And you can't be that when there's kids in the house. So trying to carve out time has been really rough. And like I said, my partner, my wife, has been very supportive about that, about trying to make sure I have time. Right now, my mom took the kids for a couple hours because she's like, hey, I haven't seen him. Great, awesome. I'll stream for a little bit and do the celebration, because it's a big deal. So it's trying to find little bits of time. Most of the stuff I can do sort of on my own timing. The problem really is recording. And you guys are probably... Have you noticed it? Of course you've noticed it. The number of people who make the comment, is there a baby in the background? Yes, there's a baby. That's what babies sound like. Do you not know what a baby sounds like? Like, is this a question for you? So that's come up a couple times where I've been like, oh man, what's going on with the babies and all that? So that's why I've actually switched over to this microphone. It's a much shorter throw, and it cancels out a lot of the background noise. So when I'm in this room anyway, I try and use this microphone, so not as much will be happening, and you don't have to worry about it. So yeah, it's just sort of trying to find that balance. Ideally, I record in the back in a closet or something like that, but it's a very narrow window when they're not asleep and when I can go back to the closet and actually be in there and record. So a lot of timing weirdnesses, to say the least. What is the most faction do you played in Warhammer 2? In Warhammer 2, my most played faction was Mortal Empires. I played Empire. I played a lot of Empire. I love I love Confederation mechanics. I think a well-done Confederation mechanic is a lot of fun, and I enjoy going that route of like bringing the super team together and then convincing them to join me. And I really dig on the I like that they have sort of like an answer for everything. Like there's the spears, there's the whatever, and here's the rockets. You can sort of dabble in whatever aspect of it you want. I also think they have really fun villains. I like fighting the Skaven. I like fighting the vampires. So really fun villains to fight at the same time with a lot of variety. So I played them a lot. Very boring in my actual campaigns, weirdly. Like I'll play like a campaign for like 30, 40 turns, but once it becomes clear that I've won, I'm done. That's why I used to like the short campaign victories in Medieval 2. I liked the fact that I could start, hit my victory condition, be done. Bloop, done. Cool, I'll move on. The long campaign where I'm wiping across the map and coloring the entire map one color, I don't think I've ever done that. Just because it becomes the same thing over and over again at that point, and it's just such repetition. Which moves guys am I most and least proud of? I refer back to Nakai all the time. I don't know why Nakai works for me, but I laugh every time I watch it. I think that's when I really started figuring out the format that I wanted to do, as far as tonality and stuff like that. Um, least proud of is Gorok, just because there's this one joke that still does not read at all. So I explained it in the comments. I'll explain it here yet again. At one point, I'm talking about Gorok being the Great White Lizard. Okay, so the Great White Dragon is a colloquial term for the head of the Ku Klux Klan in the United States. So the joke underlying all this was that he is like the Great White Lizard. You see how this works here. It's word association, right? And I continued on with that, comparing him to certain of the members of the National Socialist Party of the 1940s, making this very negative, right? You know, saying, you see the associations. Right. I was like, okay, well, let's put music behind there that sort of gets this idea across. This is much funnier in context, by the way, but that's the thing about jokes. Like, they're always, like, bad out of context. And so I looked up the actual music of that particular government, and it's weirdly upbeat, like, in a way that I was like off put by, and I actually just became very uncomfortable with this entire sequence of jokes right here. Like, I was like, this is not working for me. I feel like we're getting into offensive territory. Like, for as much as I make jokes about all this stuff, like sexuality and all that, like, I want people to feel like they're involved. You know, I don't ever want anyone to feel like they can't watch these videos or they're being attacked in any sort of way. And it was very, so I kind of backed off of it, and instead I put like the Soviet national anthem or something under there, because, like, you know, it's the bad guys from the 80s, whatever. And people really just didn't get it. Although, interestingly, since the invasion of Ukraine, people have stopped posting that comment, which is its own weirdness. It's like, okay, well, I guess they're more evil now. I don't know. And yes, whoever noticed this is a Shure SM58, yes, it is. And this is just, it's a dynamic cardioid, very short throw, so it isolates a lot of the background noise. And I've honestly found, except possibly upgrading to a Shure SM7B, which is a $450 $400 microphone with a cloud lifter and all that, I just don't think I'm getting a better performance. And I've just, from everything I've seen, it really is about the best for this. I have a really great shotgun mic that I like to use when recording in the back, but, you know, works for when doing live stream and stuff like that. I mean, this is a live microphone after all. All right. A lot of these. Favorite Lord from any game or DLC? My favorite DLC is by far Ikit Claw. I mean, Ikit Claw really just nailed everything they were going for. You know, the nuclear abilities, the build a workshop. I was just so impressed by the way that turned out. That DLC really changed. I think that was the first DLC where they really changed how they consider a Lord and how it works, and really pushed to make something a lot more interesting. So I think that was really the first one when they really changed what they were capable of. And it's weird to see that sometimes there's some that work really well and some that don't. I always felt that Snikch's mechanic was like overly complicated. So there's two different concepts in game design, in my opinion. You can either have the carrot or you can have the stick, right? So you either get someone to do it because there's a reward, or you get them to do it because if you don't do it, they're going to beat you with a stick, right? Carrot, stick. And Snikch is definitely one of those, it had too much stick. Same thing with Malekith years later, or around that same time. It's like, oh, you know, we're going to like have this bar thing that like constantly makes it where you have to do, and it just felt like very stick. Like I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to pursue it. There wasn't like an underlayering thing of I'm getting a reward for doing this intended play style. It was very much punishment for not listening. I'm whacking this thing constantly right now. And so that's definitely one of those underlying philosophy behind why people make things, you know, just sometimes doesn't read for me, but that's everybody else. Wish they would Amazon's as a playable faction. Yeah. A lot of their Southlands stuff, including the Pygmies, I just don't think is ever going to come up, man. Like, you might get them as a single unit in something, a larger, like, Dogs of War DLC, but a lot of that comes from people really liking the nudity mods, frankly, which CA has never been down with, so I just don't see that really ever becoming very common. Let's see. Make demon unit is now getting better war face among gods. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think you can definitely say that between Vermintide and Total War Warhammer, the series, it has really changed what Games Workshop is currently doing. I don't think that they Maybe they did, but it definitely seemed like they had no intention of bringing Warhammer Fantasy back. And yet suddenly everybody is far more interested in that than Age of Sigmar. And I think they really kind of have to slowly change their plans. And that's why they're coming out with Old World slowly. You know, where are people saying they want to spend their money and their time? And good companies respond to that. Do I think Warhammer 3 will get better with updates? Yeah. I'm one of the few people I think that didn't have a lot of problems with it initially. I think it did what it was supposed to. It was a basic campaign that you played for, you know, once or twice. But when every campaign has the same objectives, in the end, you're not going to keep playing it over and over again. And everyone was then waiting for the Immortal Empires to come out. And it's just been delayed. You know, if Immortal Empires had came out a month after the game released, people would care a lot less right now. But when you're stuck with Jorce of the Vortex campaign, having to play the same cycle over and over and over, you know, people get bored. You know, they want when you suddenly start having time to notice problems. So something else. I also think that there's also Total War games have always been very graphically intensive. Nearly every time a Total War game has come out, ever since I was a kid, I've always had to upgrade my graphics card or my CPU every single time. I just basically bought a new computer every 3 years, you know, because that's what I kind of had to do. And a lot of the complaints about lack of optimization, yeah, they're not very well optimized. They never have been. But it's also just not recognizing that there's a power creep for every game. You know, it's not going to have the same specs as Warhammer 2. And, yeah, but that's my opinion on that one. Let's see. Why ever do a Noob's Guide to something like Lore of the Roses? Yes, I really want to call it something that's not Noob's Guide to History. Where does that sound like? I know that that's sort of the recognized brand on that. And that's what I was saying earlier, almost like doing a separate channel that focuses on that stuff. And I have a very weird relationship with history in that I want to treat it respectfully because real people, real suffering, real death, but also be glib and fun about it. And that's a really weird tightrope to walk. And I can write the same script being super duper serious and super duper jokey, and they're both equally valid to me in a way. You know, like which is the one people are going to tune in for? Which is the one people are going to get more out of in the end? And that's a larger conversation I've just never quite figured out for myself. Terry Jones of Monty Python fame was now Dr. Terry Jones, Doctorate of History. And he made these wonderful history specials that were very comedic, yet also somehow managed to thread that and make you feel and really make you feel bad at some points. Like he really give you an idea of the emotion. And trying to find a way to write those in a way that I can incorporate both is very much what I'm interested in doing, you know. So it's, you know, it's one of those things, again, I just want to try. I would like to get into more stuff like that in the future, though. Specific pairings, specific people, specific events, all that kind of fun stuff, because it's the same across the board. Greetings from Norway. Sorry to cover this, but will you cover Three Kingdoms or the return of Sal, will be called by CA? Love the content. Three Kingdoms 2. I do not think Three Kingdoms 2 will ever see the light of day. If they have any sense whatsoever, that is a game that will eventually be quietly canned and will never come out. It's just that Three Kingdoms, and I made a video about this like 2 weeks ago, trying to just get a response, like get something from them, like just say, hey, yeah, we know we screwed up, whatever you want to do. Like nobody is going to be happy about Three Kingdoms 2. Do you know what I mean? Like Three Kingdoms 1 was left in a bad state. Three Kingdoms 2 is not going to be people happier about returning to it. And I think there's a lot of really cool stuff with it. And everything I've heard is that there was a lot of technical limitations within that game. Like, you know, it was built on the old Attila stuff. And so they're constantly having to fight, like with the engine, with the whatever. And it's just not good enough, right? That's not a good enough reason for the rest of us. You know, maybe the Chinese censors blocked it. I don't know. It's just that no one's going to be okay with it when it returns. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's an uphill battle that I don't think anyone is really ready to fight. You know? And so I really, really hope eventually that will just get quietly dropped eventually, and that conversation stops. I think people will be infinitely happier if they just came back and made additional DLCs for the Kingdoms, but that's if I ruled the world. History is often taught is incredibly dry. Yes, history taught is incredibly dry. Everything I learned about history I learned outside of class, with one exception. If on the off chance you are Miss Patty Yates and you live in New Jersey and you ever come across this video, you are the most effective teacher I've ever had in my life. I learned the ability she would sit down, open a notebook, and then speak for an hour and a half, and then close the notebook every single day, preparing for an AP history exam. And my hand would ache by the end of that class. And she would write it all out on an overhead projector up on the screen every day. No PowerPoints, before PowerPoints. But I learned how to write a 2-page essay in 30 minutes. I learned how to write a 5-page essay in an hour, consistently every single time, coherently, using all the standardized formats. And that has become so useful for this channel. And I did not, it's one of those things, only years later do I appreciate how difficult that was to have learned and how necessary it was at the same time. That skill, to be able to do that. So, but yeah, it was incredibly dry. I mean, it's like John C. Calhoun. If anyone here knows John C. Calhoun and his 6 different failed attempts at the presidency, it's completely useless information. And it's hard to feel that in a larger context, but it gives you enough little like touchstones and names that you may want to go look at it later. Like one of the first introductions for me was Davy Crockett. Rather interesting figure in history if you look at him beyond the mythology. And that's why I really recommend people or concepts, like abstract concepts, and try and follow that thread of that person as it wiggles its way through the timey-wiminess. Yeah. What's my favorite period in history? I tend to like early medieval just because there's a little bit of wiggle room. I don't like high medieval as much. So anything from like 450 to about 1200, 1300, I tend to enjoy. That's where I've spent the most time kind of looking at. I'm always interested in new kind of stories around that era, but I really do drop off after about 1450, 1500. It becomes sort of too well documented in a way where, everyone's got their own diary and its opinion on that diary. And suddenly there's a glut of information. There's so much information. It's almost like drowning in it, but that's becomes its own thing. Want to ask you guys something. Oh yeah. Man, I don't even know. It sounds weird to like engage with you guys and ask you guys questions. I haven't thought about it that way. I was sort of just like asking questions and moving from it. What do you guys want from the channel? It sounds weird to say that, but 100,000 views, 100,000 subs, and it took 4 years to get here. And that last 5,000, by the way, 95 to 100, took 6 months. It was like the slowest growth in the entire history of the channel. And I was dying. I was like, why? What am I doing wrong? And it's like, yeah, why don't more people sub? If you like the content, is it that it wasn't consistent? It was too much other stuff going on? Why did it take 4 years to get 100,000? I'm happy to have gotten there, but having seen other people pass by me, Okoy, man, when Okoy hit 100,000 when he switched over to Elden Ring, I was like, dude, good on you. That's awesome. But it's like his sub went like right through the roof. It's kind of funny. I like the guy. I talk to him occasionally. What's your deepest secrets? Dude, my secrets are not that deep and dark, frankly. I try and be as honest and straightforward as possible, which makes my life incredibly boring to outsiders. More noobs guides we're passionate about. You know what? Trisonus, Scarbrand plays Scarbrand is my kid's favorite video. I will do those little animated bits, and he loves to see the animations and the silly voices, and he occasionally will do Scarbrand plays Scarbrand. He'll do the Scarbrand voice at me. I adore that. That's actually what I want to get into more of, this little animated shorts like that, like history, Warhammer, whatever, and I really dig those. I was talking with Tariff. I've been talking with Tariff for years now, but he specializes in those little 1-minute videos. And I was talking with him, and his views are insane for those because it's a little 1 minute. You're fun. You're back out again. And I feel like those 8-minute noobs guides, you have to invest so much into them in a way. But those little tiny little just make a joke. It's self-contained to go back out again. And I really want to get more into those animations. I wrote one out. I wrote one out for Kairos where it's like he's like predicting the future for Tzeentch, and very bad at it. So you have the 2 different heads, but one head is Foghorn Leghorn because I love the Foghorn Leghorn voice. And I totally co-opted that from my Malice Darkblade video. Like in retrospect, that should have been the Kairos voice, like from the beginning. But like that's just where it kind of came from. Now I probably would have done like something super Slaneshi over there. But you know, basically one head is like, you know, trying his best to make predictions. The other one is like just stuck in the past, foghorn leghorn. And his advice is just like not okay advice. It's like, oh, we should make a compromise in the situations. Well, I can come up with these all sorts of just horrible, like outdated opinions and jokes. And I ran this by my editor and partner, and she's like, no, you cannot make a 3/5 compromise joke in a video. No, that's not okay. But, you know, just like those, the whole point was that this head is outdated. This is not how you should be acting. But even then, YouTube can't discern the difference between the two a lot. So it's like, you know, be careful about what you put online. I'm like, yeah, I got that. So that one got the kibosh on it right now. But another one I've been working on was Nakari is in a boardroom meeting with Slanesh. Like Slanesh has like a boardroom meeting. So instead of being like super excessive all the time, it's just like them sitting around a boardroom table and like making, you know, just like let me just pull it up really quick. I'm gonna see if I can find it. You know, because I have all these little jokes and stuff. Like, and sometimes you guys will notice if you turn on the captions, my captions don't match what's up on the screen because I'll have cut jokes for time or content or whatever over the course of the video. And so I sometimes just leave them in accidentally and, you know, forget to take them back out. So if you scroll down, you'll see them down there because this is part of that when I was doing it. Diplomacy. Yeah, because I had like a lot of like diplomacy jokes with... Oh, that was one. Sorry, I keep my ideas written down, right? Eventually I want to do one for like diplomacy things, and it's Durthu, but Durthu is basically the Big Lebowski because he's a tree. It's just like, it's so stupid. It's like, hey man, like you're harshing my vibe, man. Take some of my bud and like chill out, demon man. And it's like, this is one of those cut Scarbrand jokes, and Scarbrand's like, Scarbrand has no chill. Sorry, I'm going back through. Tomb Kings remind Scarbrand of his mummy, and he hates this. Oh man, just cut jokes. Scarbrand hates small talk. Where was that? Because I remember writing that video out. Because it was like it was kind of like Comcast on South Park back in the day. If you remember that, like Comcast is like, oh yeah, oh it's so bad, and they're kind of making fun of them the entire time. And so the same kind of idea, like they're going through this boardroom meeting and it's super boring, but like Slanesh can't get enough of it because it's like it's the worst thing ever. Oh, where was that? I gotta have it in here somewhere. Oh, here it is. So it's Nakari and Sigvald and a couple other keepers of secrets, and they're at a boardroom table, and Slanesh is at the head of the table. All the Tim Curry jokes, Dr. Frankenfurter, Lord of Darkness from Legend, mix the two. Apparently that's my voice. There you go. So I already wrote a note about what I should sound like. Got a note about Nakari and Marathi in there. Oh, here it is. Nakari, what's the report for the Domination Division? I'm probably going to get a girl and a guy to record those lines because I like that duality right there. Sigvald, our self-service department is just exploding, but seduction and temptation are down on their knees. Darn the internet. Other Slaneshi demon. On a related note, the price of leather has risen 60%. We simply can't afford to keep repairing our the knees on our uniforms. The Slanesh stands up. Make all the chaps assless. Use those to patch the knees. By Slanesh, it's brilliant in its simplicity. Excellent. Hear, hear. All praise me. Yes. And then Nakari stands up. Your sexiness. We've been receiving complaints that our temptations lack excitement. We polled our top demographic, and they feel we haven't modernized to meet their needs. How can we tempt the modern hedonist? And it's like, someone stands up like, what if we put more blades on the Hellflayer? No, that's outdated thinking. What if the demonettes were enhanced this year? Everyone laughs, right? We did that last year. They can barely stand upright. And then Slanesh, this is the best you have. The other gods will eat us out for breakfast. Did you mean I know what I said? Polite coughs. Perhaps we should focus on engorging our reach. The 65-plus female remains wildly underserviced. With the right technique, we could flood that market. And so... God, I forgot that joke. And then apparently Slanesh vibrates on the screen at this point. And that's why Nakari sleeps with Marathi all the time. Got to keep those numbers up. So I hadn't actually finished the joke. I just stopped right there after having 14 different double entendres. But like the running gag was going to be like Slanesh would say something where it's like, I'm sorry, what did you mean? It's like, I know what I said. This is what writing is like with me. I'm just sitting here laughing and like trying to come up with the stupidest thing I can come up with. It is just the saddest thing. Oh, man. Let's see. I got another one on here from Reddit. Jokes on Malik. Jokes on mouth that the Kari's into that. I was wondering about these. I need to copy these and like paste them into the main document. Sorry, I'm looking over. You ever just edge your jokes? Oh, just keep it going. Like, just, don't let the laugh happen. Yeah. It's so I have an idea, and I'm trying to contact CA to make sure I can make this happen. So there's only 128 of you in here, so 128 of you will ruin this joke for you, and I'm sorry I'm going to ruin the joke, but I like it. Because I don't know how I'm gonna make it work yet. But for Miao Ying, everybody knows that Imrik and Miao Ying have a thing, right? That's the running gag. But I want to make Imrik like a stalker, and like that's one of the reasons she's as hardcore and cold and aloof as she is. That like he burned her hard. Like it's very like, single white female. Like he's trying to take over her life. Like Pokemon or like it's not cute anymore. It's like, dude, that is like dark. And I want to do if you've ever seen Too Many Cooks, which is an Adult Swim late night Adult Swim thing, where in it there's a guy in the background and he like slowly comes into the foreground the entire time, and like he gets more and more and more there in each shot until eventually he takes over the video. And so I just want Imrik in the background, like tiny like behind a tree, behind a whatever. You see a hand, you see a dragon in the sky, and it's never talked about, it's never recognized, but like he's just slowly like stalking her and creeping on her closer and closer and closer throughout the video. And it's like I don't know why that amuses me, like of the visual gag nature of that. It's like, I'm sorry, is he like creeping on her? He's like slowly creeping on her. And like, because the thing is like, people play that for laughs. It's like, oh, Imrik, you're just super into dragons. It's like, yeah, but that's not okay, man. That's really not okay. She's sentient. And just like recognizing that that's not okay. So I'm gonna hear. But obviously I can't get Imrik in the game yet with Miao Ying. So I'm trying to contact them to be like, is there a way I can make that happen? I know how to mod him in, but it may violate the terms of service. So I was trying to be cool with it. Take the old guy from Family Guy. I always wished I could do that voice. Like, I can't whistle. I actually don't know how to whistle. So, visual gags are the best. Visual gags are hard to do right, though. And if they don't land, people miss them entirely. And so you do all this setup, and it just completely falls flat. It's like, oh. Let me find those Kairos comments. They should be in here somewhere. Scarbrand has joke for Kairos. You know a cow killed 2 birds with 1 stone. What? Scarbrand! That one got cut. It's supposed to be like he interacts with Kairos. Nakari, because every demon has a thing about twins and they want to be the meat in a prawn sandwich with extra mayonnaise. I wrote these like months ago with the intention I would eventually make Nakari, obviously, and like oh man. This is the thing, is like, I forget these jokes because I'm making so many of them at a time. I just don't even remember it. And so I'll just go back through and like find them on stuff like that. That is nuts. I was gonna do, I did the Scarbrand, the being Power Thirst. That one's fun. God, that's so wild. All right, Too Many Dragons. Imrik's like dragon rolls. Something meta like Troops and Kathy and the ones from Three Kingdoms talking to each other. Oh, I like that. I like the idea of just like every time you show the troops from Three Kingdoms. Oh God, I'm gonna write that one down actually. So every time I would show the troops from Cathay, it just cuts to Three Kingdoms. And it's like, oh, sorry. And it's like, it just keeps happening every time. Like, sometimes, like initially I don't even notice it. It's like you just keep inserting troops from Three Kingdoms the entire time. I'm going to write that one down, actually. Keep showing troops from Three Kingdoms. Keep showing troops from Three Kingdoms. Accidentally. Yeah, it's interesting because so many of those animations are available at CA, and you can really tell with how many mods there are for the game, just how popular that faction is. Because people are inspired by Three Kingdoms, and they want to see a lot of that come in. And they're definitely the faction that feels like they were sort of carved out a little bit for the DLC. Like, you know, where's our really heavy cavalry? Where's our, you know, different types of this, that, and the other? And you can kind of feel on that one. Them and Kislev, it's like, you guys held some stuff back for the DLC a little bit. So, we'll see. Yeah, so... I like Tristoni. I like the idea of like him stalking on her, but then like in the end, it's like Zhao Ming. It's like, oh no, the edgy one likes the bad boys now. That's right. Ooh, that Emmerich. Is there a chance of you making a video with these scrap jokes, especially or something? So what will happen is I keep them because I'll typically repurpose them as a joke later if I can. Like I'll try and use it somewhere else, like redo the wording and bring it back again. Best joke people missed in my video, dude. They miss. I just throw them all out there. I really liked the Mogwai after midnight joke from my last video. It's like they have the same energy as a Mogwai after midnight. Because if you've ever seen Gremlins, you know, after midnight, a Mogwai that eats after midnight turns into what basically looks like a tiny, skinny nurgling that's insane. And I was like, that's a great joke. And I'm not offended by it. I mean, I just keep throwing jokes. I mean, eventually one of them is going to stick, clearly. So, yeah. Blooper guide. Blooper guide is mainly just me stumbling over words with someone with a lisp and a speech impediment. Oh my goodness. I was talking with Party Elite recently, and I was like, dude, yeah, it takes me like 30, 40 minutes to record an 8-minute guide. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, 30, 40 minutes, you know, because I got to go read through, and I'll screw up a line. I don't like the delivery on it. I want to try and do it again. And he's like, that's not how you do that. He's like, I record it once, and I'm done. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's how I do it. Okay. No judgments, but apparently there are. But yeah, like if I don't like my tonality or I don't like my emphasis on the wrong syllable, I'll go back and mess with that. And something I really found weirdly is a tip from Top Gear. I've noticed people respond better if I start off with a low tone to my voice and go up versus a high tone to my voice and go down. Jeremy Clarkson on Top Gear always starts, and now with the da-da-da-da-da, versus it's almost like a radio announcer voice, which he started off as. And I was like, oh, there's a really nice tip in that, because I find when I'm editing, if I go da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right, it becomes really jarring to edit, versus if I go low and then high, it ramps back up again every time. That is a really weird tip. But there you go. But, you know, trying to get that right and, you know, find the natural beat, the natural breathing points within the script, you know, building those in is, those rich low tones, man. Yeah, those rich low tones. I was actually listening to Pancreas No Work. I was like, dude, that guy has a great voice. Like that's a nice voice. Like I'm always like trying to push myself lower. Like, yeah, bring it in right here, real close and low. All right, everybody, here we go. Bring it down now. Watching your noobs guides since day one, man. You've been at it for a while. Well, I'm glad you always enjoy them, man. I keep making them because people enjoy them. It sounds dumb to say, but if people didn't like him, I wouldn't make him. You know, it was not something I initially intended to set out to make. I was just like, I need to fill this gap. And then people love it. So I like making them because people enjoy them. And I love bringing people like a bright spot in their day. Like I always try and be positive about it because of that. And we're going to turn into the music video Call Me Maybe, but with Emmerich. So what I really wanted to do, one of my jokes, I need to write this down before I forget about it too, is I wanted to do like another short, like a 1-minute short. Emmerich sings Police, Every Breath You Take. And so it's just Emmerich, but he's like holding a picture of Miao Ying in like the short, and it's like, every breath you take, every move you make, I'll be watching you, right? Just like really highlight the creepiness of that song. So I don't know. Like I'll have Jeez. Once I get about a full page of ideas, I'll then sit down and start trying to weave them into the lore and really go through their entry and the whatever manual and kind of make sure weave them in right there. But yeah, so that's my writing process. I sit there until I think I have enough jokes to actually make something out of it. You know, what's the theme of the video? What's the feeling I'm going for here? And yeah. I think there's an untapped Zhao Ming as the Puff the Magic Dragon vote. Oh my god, that's a good joke. Man, you guys are full of good stuff today. Puff the Magic Dragon. Puff the Magic Dragon. Meow. That's not Miao Ying, that's Zhao Ming. Because he's definitely puffing some magic dragon. Chasing the green dragon, that's for sure. I was definitely going into him being the party boy prince, though, especially with that like line in the game where he like grinds up warp stone and snorts it, and that's in the game. I was like, I'm sorry, what? You guys did not check all the stuff you were putting in here, clearly. First faction I play when Mortal Empires drops, one of the new ones for the DLC. Honestly, either that or if they add any other new characters. I don't play Total War for relaxation anymore. That means it's sort of like, you know, would you go to the water park if you work at the water park? Right? So like I'll play it and I enjoy it, but like my mind's always kind of churning in the background about writing and all that. So I'm like, oh, I need to work. I need to do blank while I'm doing this. And so that's sort of what comes up right there when I play Warhammer. It's like, you know, I'm always sort of semi-working in the background, even if it's just like thinking about what I need to be writing. Kind of always working on that and trying to come up with the jokes. So it's my brain never really turns off. The best way of describing it, I guess. Imric is scary. It's cool, Trisonus. Like, that's actually, Trisonus says, noob guides were on my recommended for a while list before I started watching them because I was under the impression they were actual guides. That's why I now start off with the comment. In this video, we're going to go over the lore of the character, how that translates to gameplay, and why you should play them, you know, and why they're awesome and you should play them. You know, I tell people at the head of the video, it's like, this is lore, what their mechanics are, what I mean. It's like, I've never understood the videos of like telling people exactly what to do. Like, well, then you click and move them here, and then you can beat this guy and do that and recruit these 4 guys, and now you're on your way to a perfect game. It's like, congratulations, you're replicating what somebody else did. I know people enjoy that sort of stuff. That's not how I play. I like making mistakes, man. I like getting dirty. I like getting dirty with it. So, yeah, I do make sure to include that now at the beginning, though, because I get that comment all the time. It's like, dude, how is this a guide? It's a guide to lore and, like, basic gameplay mechanics. Like, I feel that's pretty accurate. It's just silly. Nobody expects that. You guys generally improve with each episode and influence me anyway. Well, thank you. I'm glad I'm getting better at them. I can't tell sometimes. I think sometimes the visuals, I was trying really, really hard on the visuals around the time of Cetra and mustache guy from the Empire, Volkmar. I was trying really hard with the visuals because that's around the time Engaging Bear came on the scene, and I was like, dude, I gotta up my game. I need to go all in on these visuals with reshade presets and stuff like that. And they became so difficult to film. Like, I realized that people are listening more than they're watching, so the visuals just sort of have to match what's being said. So I can spend the extra 2 weeks getting the visuals, but it doesn't really mean anything in the end. So just keep it consistent, keep it quality. Don't try and overdo it. You can overdo things really easily, it feels like. They worked on lowering the tone of her voice. I don't know who Elizabeth Holmes is. Oh no, Elizabeth Holmes, like Marvel, really worked on lowering the tone of her voice. I didn't know that, but that makes sense to me. Yeah, my natural tone, you'll notice I'm like up here, da 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 da. My testicles never dropped. But when I'm trying to talk to you guys or when I'm doing the new stuff, I do try and like think about keep my voice lower, calm it down, slow it down. My grandfather, when I was a kid, spoke very, very quickly, and I picked that up, and I speak far slower than I intend to. Normally would, just like in conversations, and so I've had to really pay attention to that, which is what you're saying there. Green screen version of Charlie Brown and Snoopy. He's a bad dragon. Womp, womp, womp. I mean, if you want to following the meta just kills the fun. Yep, I agree. Following meta has never been my thing. I knew someone would literally restart an entire campaign if you lost one battle. Whoa, and wasn't expecting it. Dude, I hated the puzzles in Warhammer 2, though. Gosh almighty, those were so annoying. Like, when I was, like, looking at the screen and I was like, you know, when I figured out you had to take it into Photoshop to, like, rotate it, I was like, whew. That was not a good design. That was not fun. That was not interesting. Like, this is a Warhammer game? Like, I'm here to fight and, like, build stuff, not solve weird puzzles that don't have obvious meanings, essentially. I bookmarked the guide with all the answers and just never looked back. It's funny. Yeah, it's still, even today, just avoid those. They were just never very funny. Elizabeth Holmes. Who was Elizabeth Holmes? Who am I thinking of for Elizabeth Holmes, then? Who is Elizabeth Holmes? Look her up really quick. Don't know her. Elizabeth Holmes from, like, biotechnology? The lady who had that giant thing with the scam with the blood? Together we live our friend Theranos. Oh, Theranos. Yeah, okay, yeah. Actually, her. Yeah, it's psychological manipulation. That's interesting that she knew to do that, actually. Huh. Which Mythos game would be great for a would Mythos be great for a Three Kingdoms kind of game? So, this is a bear bug of mine, and you touched on it, and that's fine. I call it the Warhammerification of everything. Everybody wanted a Bronze Age game. For years, people wanted a Bronze Age game in Total War. And then they made Troy. Everyone's like, awesome, we're going to get a Bronze Age game. No, we're going to have centaurs and stuff in it. But they're not really, we're just not going to call them centaurs. Nobody was happy about that. Nobody. Then they made Mythos. And several people were like, awesome, now it's mythological. That's awesome. And the people who were historical were like, I'm sorry, what? Right, you know, same thing with actually the Three Kingdoms game. They started doing the two modes, the realistic and the not, the records and the romance. And even then, the records got sort of left out. Like, it's always like the records is an afterthought because they want to keep trying to bring in those Warhammer fans because that's where the money is. And while I'm sure Mythos would be a popular DLC for Three Kingdoms as they go even more fantastical, I just, man, keep it out of my games. Keep it out of my history a little bit. Like, it's like there's places for that, but design it with that intention. Build a game from the beginning, like Age of Mythology from, you know, Microsoft back in the day. It's not Age of Empires 2 with a Mythology DLC. It's Age of Mythology, and you built it as such. It's not trying to bolt it on later. Like, be intentional, right? But that's my feeling on it. You know, go all in, don't hedge your bets. I want an actual Bronze Age game still. Yeah. I've heard rumors about that, man. I've heard rumors they're going to keep doing that, but I wonder how much of that was dependent on Troy's success. Like, you know, the idea they're going to continue expanding out Troy, you know, adding additional maps onto it, gluing it all together. Sort of like what they did with Warhammer, like connected games. But, you know, nobody is talking about those games anymore. So it's very much sort of like, is that going to be met with a massive Snoopy noise of womp womp? Who knows? Yeah. But anywho, that is basically all I have. We have been talking for coming up on, I started this at what, 10:45, and it's 1 o'clock now. So we've been going a little over 2 hours. You guys have been sitting here listening to me gab away, just rat-a-tat-tatting. But we're going to call it done. But we're going to end with one more confetti throw because it's 100,000 subscribers, and that's friggin' awesome. Tell your friends. I got to pick it up again. Tell your friends we have more to come. I'm not stopping, obviously. I'm going to keep at it. I enjoy it. Hopefully, I'm going to put that subscriber button right there for future videos so you can see it, which would be awesome. But thank you guys for watching me up until now. I really enjoyed it, and thank you for tuning in today. And I hope to continue to entertain you guys for years to come. Oof, buddy, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the tip there. I appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody, and have a great weekend, and watch the upcoming shorts. Submit them if you haven't yet, and hopefully we'll do more of this coming up pretty soon. Take care.